Oh, there it goes. Oh,
hey, there he is.
Yeah.
Sure,
Okay, I figured it out. Well, no, I didn't figure out. You told me how to do it.
Man, so far we're waiting on the two people I'm kind of most excited to be here. Because I'm not gonna lie.
I'm looking forward to Janae.
Yeah, Janae is such a dramatic person.
I haven't heard from her all day. Let me see.
Is Janae the one that like always makes the drama videos and posts them in the
group? She's the rapper.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I've never watched any of the videos. I always see them and be like that.
I like the Xanderhall video. I was fucking with the Xanderhall video.
It was so bad. No, I don't want to talk bad about her, because the thing is that I like the amount of like aggression that seems to come off in those videos. But at the same time, it's like really dramatic.
True. I like it. I mean, you gotta keep the kayfabe up, you know?
Yeah.
That's true. I just don't fuck with the drama stuff.
That's fair. That's fair.
Excuse me. Can I correct you real quick?
I am currently fucking with the drama stuff, but it's only because I didn't have anything else to do.
We can have a real discussion about the part that Vaush may or may not play in the online leftist discourse without it descending into drama bait, although it almost certainly will do.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, I've noticed that there's a trend on the left where we're becoming more. Well, during like the election, we had like a lot of debateness going on. I think that's where Vaush got a lot of his fans. That's where Destiny got a lot. Well, Destiny already had a lot of fans, but a lot of like lefties got like a lot of fans from things like the election and debating people on the right, especially people like Vaush. So I feel like there's a certain attitude that's like anti-debate bro or debate lord.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I think it's interesting.
It's definitely an aesthetic that kind of that was missed from kind of leftist advocacy for quite a while. Whether you think it's a good thing or not, and it's probably up for debate, which is why we're here.
Which I love the concept of debate bros being up for debate. That's a fun one,
right?
Hey, this was bound to happen eventually, right?
I'm here to debate you on why debating is bad.
Well, there's a Sarah Z video which is about why debating is bad, right? I've not even watched it. I probably should have done.
Oh yeah, that's the one where she talks about how she got into formal debate in college or something. Hey,
that was a long video. I was like,
if y'all are interested,
right? 45 minutes.
You're going to have the option to
you watch Vaush's content. His segments are like an hour long.
Yeah, but Vaush had to like.
If you go into channel points,
reel me in though, you know.
True, you'll be able to.
He's like that Eric Striker debate with Destiny was like.
Bad.
I think that netted him a lot of fans.
His videos started getting shorter, just like they're going to like 20 minutes, that kind of mark.
I mean, yeah, well, that's probably definitely a topic that's going to come up.
Gotta ride the wave of the algorithm, man. You gotta figure out what videos are really catching it.
My algorithm.
I think he's moved a long way from being just a person debating randos on. He's pulled off Twitter to being like a recognizable YouTube face, which means he's done a lot more kind of, I guess, easier content recently, just like reacting to bits and pieces of current events, which obviously. I mean, Tim Paul got millions of subscribers out of it and has pushed the envelope in regards to his ideological preferences to plenty of people on the internet just by being react Andy to random bits of current affairs on the internet. I mean, it's what I do on my channel.
Oh, really? You've started streaming? That's awesome.
I think what Vaush does is like insanely valuable, but I think that it's limited in its effectiveness.
That's definitely right. I definitely would agree with that.
Which that's kind of what my whole position is in this debate, is that he doesn't do enough to mobilize his audience to do actual real-world activism.
I mean, outside of like when he was talking, you remember through all the Destiny drama when he was trying to get this, was it Omaha guy, the mayor of Omaha, tried to get him elected right through this.
I believe, yeah. But the thing is,
like from PA drama and things like that, and it's like, okay, cool. We're trying to have a look at doing a pack. We're trying to get people involved in local politics. We're trying to push electoral candidates. But that's like one tiny little sliver of what we could theoretically be doing as part of the left.
Exactly.
And obviously, as leftists, we all know about mutual aid, about unionizing, and all. Even just talking to people in your workplaces about the conditions that you work under. Right? These are all things that we should be encouraging others to do, which Vaush does not do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I feel like when you have an audience that big, you can really like make some shit happen.
Especially when he's making people who previously weren't class conscious, right? The amount of people who've been pulled over to that opinion. I mean, he does a really good work in being the start of the leftist pipeline, right? I understand that's kind of a hackneyed term at this point. About obviously we'll talk about the alt-right pipeline forever, and if you're just mimicking them, what even is that? I'm just like, well, they've got to be reeled in from somewhere. Like, I understand maybe we should be going after apolitical people as well, but there's a certain corner of the internet who respond very well to irreverent white guys who make kind of a bit edgy. A bit debatey. Like he feels that niche pretty well.
Yeah, you're drawing people in from moderate or right-wing spaces, not to be activists or left-wing, but positive for any kind of left-wing movement in any way, but you're reeling them in to sit and enjoy Vaush's content, which I think is there's a slight difference between the two there. And I don't think Vaush really gives a shit about that difference. I think as long as his channel is growing, and it isn't really at the minute, if you look at it.
No,
it's been about the same since the election, actually. But
since the Capitol riots, I think was when it kind of tapered off.
Vaush said something really, really revealing when he was talking about the whole Destiny canvassing thing. He says that until he heard about Destiny doing that hadn't even crossed his mind. And so for me, like, that was really revealing about the mindset of that, and so it that was kind of like the first time that I was like, ooh, wow, maybe he's not the best.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
The deal is that we tend to think that people, when they get a large platform, these ideas are just going to spontaneously occur. Destiny didn't think about that until Destiny happened.
Yeah.
Like there was this huge portion of time where Destiny had a sizable fan base, where he could have been doing these steps that Destiny's currently doing, but he wasn't. And I don't think we can fault anyone else for not being able to for not thinking of it. The idea had to start somewhere, and it just so happened that it started with Destiny himself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily anyone's fault. I just think that it does say a lot about the discourse online that is not something that is being highlighted as much as the informational side of it.
Yeah, it's just you can't really place that on any individual person. Although I definitely just defanged an argument that I was going to make in the favor of Vaush bad.
Well, see, that's the thing. I think that you can. I think that at some point you can. When an audience is big enough and when a person is as involved in leftist discourse as Vaush is, I think you can make that criticism because mutual aid and activism and direct action is a fundamental part of leftist ideology.
Do we apply that to other members, though? Do we apply that to people like Abigail, Sean, and Harris?
I mean, I would personally. I don't. It's not that I think it makes them bad. I just think that it makes their effectiveness very limited.
Certainly, and I think there is obviously that large criticism of just like, okay, well, you've got this massive platform. What are you doing with it, right? And I understand that there is this criticism where it's like, you could be doing more with your platform, but the whole part, there's this big tapestry of kind of leftist online. I guess it's kind of online activism, really, where we're putting forward ideological preferences to people so that they can be congruent with that, right? Whereas, does it really matter? Like, I guess you can always criticize people for not going far enough, or at least take them up on that fact. But as long as they're all part of this general kind of feeling on the internet, this general kind of discourse on the internet, at least as long as it's positive, then that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I am happy that there are more leftist voices on the internet. 1 second, please. I have...
Don't tend to pissing contests, so
Bodhi!
Yeah, so
The influence of having a large platform may be a bit oversaturated at the end of the day.
There's a good video by Ugopnik about that, about what constitutes leftist activism on YouTube and Breadtube and stuff. That's quite a good video.
Yeah,
the way Vaush does.
So who made a video?
Ugopnik.
Ugopnik.
Yeah,
I've heard that name before with a Y, right?
He's super good. He's a Slavic YouTuber. Talks mostly about kind of economic issues.
I think that's why there's a willingness to see
I have to watch
money
that
where his mouth is. Yeah, I definitely agree there, Patches.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right now I'm seeing this as kind of like the pre-game chat where we're waiting for Janae. And what is Victor's stream name?
Yeah, we're not getting anything back from Janae or Victor, so I don't know what's going on there.
He was just talking in the chat. That's so wild. What did he do?
Where are y'all at?
All right. So, do we just want to start without them, or?
Well, I mean, we're all here, and we're like 15 minutes overdue. So.
Exactly. There's a point.
Sure.
Yeah, and I just had like half of my viewers drop. But then it might have been
what?
Yeah, no, I'm the one running the vote.
Oh.
There's a vote?
Yeah, if you come over to my stream, twitch.tv/MrNobodies. Holy shit, I've completely forgot to change the title of my stream. Jesus Christ. Twitch.tv/MrNobodies, you'll be able to vote by using channel points. 100 channel points is a single vote, either Vaush Rad or Vaush Bad. The vote is up on screen, and it will play a small musical sting, which will definitely disrupt any thoughts that I'm currently having.
Lovely.
I highly recommend going and voting on that channel and then coming back and watching on my stream instead. Well, I guess if you're not watching your stream, you wouldn't get the channel points, so I guess that's kind of moot.
All right.
Should we do introductions then?
All right, yeah. So who wants to go introduce themselves first? Right, and on my screen I see Bodhi, then I see Mr. Nobodies, then I see Helena. Is it Helena or is the H pronounced Helena? Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah.
I see myself.
Right, there's like 1,000 different pronunciations. Technically, from where I got the name, which is a Shakespearean name, it's from Midsummer Night's Dream. In that play, it's pronounced Helena, but I just prefer the pronunciation Helena.
Okay, I'll probably like alternate in between both pronunciations just so everybody's happy.
Absolutely, whatever. Fuck people up. Let's do it.
Or annoyed, whichever of the two. Yeah. So Bodhi, do you want to introduce yourself to the chat? To the class?
Sure. You can call me Bodhi, or you can call me Jared. That's my first name. I'm an activist. I work with a nonprofit organization in Tennessee called Bradley County Incarcerated Resolutions. We're a bail fund.
I saw that.
We actually bailed out 13 folks last year. It was pretty awesome. And I'm also part of an ongoing project called Appalachian Panther Party. Where it's a group of activists here in Tennessee. We receive advisement from elder Black activists, and we make moves based on their guidance and alongside our own discretion. That thing is still kind of in a formative phase, so there's not much to talk about there. Well, there is, but not for the purposes of this debate. But for the purposes of my introduction,
whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah,
I know sometimes it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
What if you don't mind me asking, like, what town in Tennessee?
I live in Chattanooga. We do most of our work in Cleveland, Tennessee, and Chattanooga, Tennessee. But we have folks all over Appalachia.
Oh shit! Another black dude. Okay.
Hey.
So yeah, that's my background. You know, as an activist and as a leftist, I've been watching Breadtubers since about 2018. That's what radicalized me. I was a liberal before that, and then far before that, I was an ANCAP. But I was also like 13, so. Oh
yeah, you had a Rand Paul phase.
I didn't have a Rand Paul phase, but I did have like a Skeptosphere anti-SJW phase.
Oh, didn't we all?
Yeah, and but luckily I got out of that before it turned me into a chud. So.
True. R.I.P. to all the chuds out there.
And Vaush was very instrumental in that, I have to say.
How are you guys today? I know I heard I was precisely 19 minutes late.
Yeah.
I missed the introduction phase. Now we going into like deep background stories and stuff.
We're just doing introductions.
We just started introduction.
Actually.
We had like a pregame chat and everything, and I was like, we're going a little bit too far during this pregame, and then we're back in the introduction phase. So Bodhi just introduced themselves. In my screen, I'm pointing to Bodhi. I can be pointing to anybody, pointing up. But, yeah.
Yeah, you didn't miss much. I'm an activist. That's about it. I work in Tennessee.
Okay.
Lit.
Oh, right. I'm not actually.
I used to be an activist. I used to do a lot of public speaking.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
So, where's everyone stand? Like, Vaush, who likes Vaush and who doesn't? If you like Vaush, raise your hand.
Well, we're going through introductions right now.
Yeah, I guess at the end of everybody's introduction, they can just state their position.
Yeah, sounds like a good plan.
All right, cool. I mean, my position is that Vaush is kind of bad, but not for the reasons that most people say he is. I think he's bad because he doesn't do enough to mobilize his audience to do the kind of work that I've been doing. And I think a lot of the other stuff that he gets criticized for is either stripped from his context, or they don't realize that it was walked back, or they do and they don't care, which honestly, if you're not going to let people change their opinions, what's up? So, yeah, that's my stance. Vaush is bad, but not what you think.
So it sounds like we have one vote for Vaush bad.
All right.
Yeah.
Love it.
Hello, everybody.
So
I'm
one
Mr.
person thinks Vaush sucks dick. Okay.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mr. Nobodies. I am a Twitch streamer and YouTuber. I mostly play video games. I'm a general idiot. Instead of formulating opinions up front, I tend to listen to other people's arguments and try to come to the best point in them. And just sort of extract that as my opinion from there on. So I'll never concede a point, but I will always shortly thereafter change my opinion. As far as my opinion on Vaush himself, I think he's kind of an idiot. You can see him form his opinions sort of the same way I do, which if you've got enough free time, you should probably be using that free time to form your opinions more reasonably and responsibly. If you're going to be sharing them out to the public, especially among his target audience, which seems to be between 16 and 30 years old.
Okay, so we got two people that think Vaush likes the flavor of from under cheese. Anyone here familiar with from under cheese?
All right, next up. Helena?
So yeah, no, so do you want my introduction, or moving on, or?
Yeah, you're up next.
Anyway, brilliant, no, perfect. So my name's Helena. I stream at twitch.tv/no_justice_mtg. I talk about like leftist politics, especially kind of UK current events. I stream Magic the Gathering. I am the world's best Pathologic 2 player. I am unmatched in my ability to play Pathologic 2. And excellent. And I'm a member of the CWU, which I would recommend anyone joining if they're in the UK, if they work in that particular sector.
What is the CWU? I'm an American and I'm ignorant about everything.
Oh, it's the Communication Workers Union.
Oh, we have one.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying.
Like me.
Yeah, I probably should have clarified. Like, you see, Peter Stefanovic gets retweeted a lot on Twitter, and he's in the CWU. So.
Okay. I dig it. So next it's me. Hey, my name's Tajy John. I'm with Bars and Joysticks.
I don't think Helena got to say her opinion on Vaush.
Sorry, Helena.
I'm definitely in kind of a Vaush nuanced position with like more of a kind of Vaush good outlook. I think his overall his position online is a positive one, but I feel like he has shortcomings that need to be addressed.
Okay. I feel like right now it's looking like I might be the only like super Vaush positive person. But yeah, my name's Taj. I'm with Bars and Joysticks. We're a video game, hip hop, and politics YouTube and Twitch channel. Yeah, so pretty much my stance is that Vaush is good. Vaush rad. He helps a lot of people with formulating their opinions. He's converted a decent amount of people away from the right or away from moderate positions closer to the left. So that's always a good thing. For a lot of things, especially something as boring as politics, or as people can perceive as boring like politics, you want someone that can captivate a large audience before going on to the more nuanced points and deeper down that cycle. So we need people like Hassan Piker. We need people like Destiny. We need people like Vaush. You know, while they don't always have like the most absolutely awesome opinions that are absolutely made of steel and titanium, adamantium, and all that shit, I think there's still a value in people like him, and he does a pretty damn good job of getting people's attention, whether it be on YouTube or Twitch or even TikTok. He has a very large TikTok following, actually. And while he does have hiccups as far as like organizing people to do things, I think that can all be ameliorated pretty easily. And I have nothing but high hopes for him.
Okay, thank you. I assume I'm next.
Yep.
I'm ThoughtBat. I'm a relatively new guy on the scene. Very, very small channel, only about 55 subscribers. I'm grateful for every single one of them, mind you. And my position on this is generally thought bad. Vaush bad is my general view. Although I'll acknowledge that Vaush has done a lot of good things in terms of promoting leftist discourse, I'm speaking as an anarchist, I'm speaking as a mutualist, and I'm speaking as a general egoist as well. I disagree with many of Vaush's ethical opinions. I disagree with many, as in not as in the results of his ethics, but the roots of his ethics. I don't like utilitarianism. I don't like the fact that Vaush doesn't care about theory. I don't like the way he kind of shits on theory.
Theory's lame.
I don't like the way Vaush kind of goes after smaller smaller leftist figures and just sort of counters on them. I know he doesn't exactly. I know he doesn't like send his armies of doxers after them, but what he generally does do is he just sort of humiliates smaller critics of his, which I don't think is a great thing if you're supposedly the king of Breadtube. So yeah, I'm going to be arguing Vaush bad on this one.
Oh shit, save the best for last. Okay, no, I'm joking. Well, so I don't have like a huge online presence. I used to be more into politics when I was younger. I was a journalist for a couple of sites. I used to write a few articles for fuck, I can't even remember the name of the site, man. It was a big site. Anyway, I was a writer and I was a public speaker. I got some videos on YouTube and on Facebook. Obviously, I'm a leftist. And the way I feel about Vaush, I haven't really watched too many of Vaush's videos. I have a roommate that always watches Vaush, and from what I can gather, I feel like he is a positive force in the political community. He's only a human. I've heard him say stupid shit. I've kind of watched him do some stupid things, but I overall think he is a positive influence. And I hear some of you guys say that he's not mobilizing his audience, and I feel like that's a learned behavior. He'll acquire that skill over time if need be, but he makes people think. All 6 of us are here right now because he made us think. And the most powerful thing is thought. Thought controls everything. It's our perspective on the world. And he is a heavy influencer on it. He's not negative. He's just not perfect. But if I had to pick a side, I kind of lean towards I give him a pass. But I also feel like I'm the wild card here. I'm kind of the comedian of the group, I can see. I'll be the comic relief for this evening.
The most powerful thing.
Yeah. Can't wait for it.
Let's go.
All right. So how are we structuring this thing?
I didn't think we were.
I don't know. Let's just have an open conversation.
Yeah.
Man.
So
Yeah, for sure.
now we're just going into
Yeah,
open convo, and if Janae joins, we'll let her do her introduction.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to talk in an American accent or an English accent? Like, which one would make it more even? Because I could talk like this. That way, everyone doesn't feel left out. If that's,
I think we're about half and half right now. So if you want to go one half in,
I'm actually Welsh, so no.
Oh yeah, well, a lot of my English friends say they don't like Welshmen, but I say to them,
it's just because we beat them at rugby. That's why.
Yeah, it's exactly.
I mean, you generally vote more left than England do, so I'm fine with that.
Exactly.
No, I'm gonna talk like a European. Is that more appropriate if I say European?
Yeah, go on.
I mean, as long as we can understand you, I don't care what you talk like.
All right,
I respect it.
So the two white Americans here are gonna have to swing heavy Southern accents, right?
Oh God, no! I can do it, but I don't want to.
Contention with the idea that I would like to raise a contention with the idea that Vaush doesn't mobilize his audience. I genuinely agree that I don't think he does this enough, and I think he should be trying to make the point to people who watch him about the things that they can do in their own lives to further the leftist cause. But then he's had people from IWW on his stream to talk about organizing. He did a Q&A with members of the DSA and all that kind of like young members, student members of the DSA, and things like that. So
you're right. And he did encourage people to go help out Destiny in both his campaigns.
Yeah. And not to mention a great example of him mobilizing not even his own followers. There are two great examples of people who would have been right-wing content creators who are no longer. Xander Hall and Hunter Avalone, I believe, both came to the left off of Vaush. I know content creation isn't exactly mobilization, but the fact that Vaush
helps
moved these two people in the direction of left-leaning political speech it's a form of mobilization.
But I think the same case with Shuanhead as well. Shuanhead.
I mean,
I thought Shuanhead was kind of like a anti-feminist figure for a bit.
She was. Did she ever apologize for doing blackface? By the way.
What?
Yeah, Well, it wasn't really blackface. It was she used one of those apps where you can make yourself look like different races, and posted a picture of her as a black woman and said solidarity or something like that.
Wait, can I say one thing?
Go right ahead.
What's the name of this app, and how the fuck can I get it?
I think FaceApp. I think FaceApp has those options. Honestly, I'm not sure because I'm pretty sure all those fucking apps are selling our facial data to the highest bidder. Maybe that's a little conspiratorial of me, but I mean, shit.
Oh no, I'm 100%. I'm 100% agreeing in agreement. I'm pretty sure they do harvest your data, specifically your face data for recognition.
Now, I don't know who this woman is, but from what you told me, that was pretty stupid of her.
She's dumb. She's very dumb.
Yeah, I mean, I think that she makes some decent content, but when you do things like that, you got to be accountable to your black following and shit.
And she become, to be fair,
she already
regardless
is.
of her social position, regardless of her social position, she's still become more class conscious over time, through, her own personal political journey, right? Which, if that's moving people over on key issues like universal healthcare, then that's in general a good thing, although her social takes still aren't particularly great, let's be fair.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'd say that Shuanhead was always... I don't think she's changed that much, to be honest. I'm not saying she's still bad or anything like that, but I don't think she's changed in terms of her political positions, because I do remember back in her anti-SJW days, she was drinking Bernie Sanders merchandise mugs, for example, from 2016. So if she was already that far along, then I don't really think... I wouldn't say Vaush brought her over. If anything, Vaush kind of reminded her to... hang on, sorry. I think, if anything, Vaush kind of reminded her to be, hey, don't forget the left-wing side of you, kind of thing.
Well, it's definitely her content has definitely skewed more towards class issues and economic issues and policy issues rather than just being kicking and screaming at the anti-SJW barrel.
And I think more than moving her, Vaush maybe moved the left to accept her. Because that's a huge problem that the online left has had thus far, is letting people change their mind.
Yeah, I think you should let people change their mind, but I also think that there should be accountability for like when you fuck
You know
up.
what? Honestly, the language of accountability has thus far been utterly ridiculous.
I agree.
The
Nice,
language
what has been.
the language of you need to be held accountable coming up every time somebody's like, hey, maybe we should talk with this person. Hey, maybe we should be more accepting of this person. The language where you then follow with, but they need to be held accountable is worthless.
So what I specifically mean by that, because I know that accountability can be very vague if you just say accountability and don't say what that means. For me, all that really means is recognizing the thing that you did wrong, apologizing for that thing, and then not doing it again in the future.
But okay, what function does that serve?
The function that it serves is it shows the members of her audience who were I wouldn't say targeted by that because I don't think she was targeting anybody, but the people who would have been offended by that, it shows them that she recognizes that's not okay.
But
and she's willing to
couldn't she do so? Can't you do so otherwise? Can't you do so by like doing differently in the future? Isn't that the thing that matters?
There's still people that you previously would have influenced by such behavior who, you know, would have, if they are engaged in the same behavior as well, they get reified by you enacting that behavior as well. And unless you're specifically coming out in against the thing that you know that you did wrong, how are you going to get these people to act differently in future in the way that you've influenced them, right? It's not just people who are hurt, it's also the people who get influenced by the bad behavior too.
Yeah, it's the people in the audience, you know, and like, I mean, on one hand, you're right. I mean, an apology is ultimately a symbolic action that doesn't bring any material change to the world. But what it does is it lets the people who are both in her audience, it lets the people who are outside of her audience because of those things know that she has moved on that. Because just continuing to do what you do and not doing that thing anymore, it can just seem like, oh, well, they knew it was bad, but they're just kind of ignoring it, and that can seem pretty yikesy too.
And I think when we're having a conversation about Vaush, like, what do we take as being an effective form of remuneration for you know poor actions that you've taken in the past, right? I know a lot of bad faith criticism of Vaush comes from things that he's done in the past he has apologized for. Like, how long are we supposed to crucify people over these things, and what constitutes you having rectified that position, right? Like, there's so much like grey area in here, whereas we're essentially treating the same amount of cancellation for people who continually engage in poor behaviour and never want to be able to change from that, and then a bunch of other people who were just cancelling over things they did, you know, way back in the day. They've clearly changed their position and have apologised for. Exactly. I think that's where a lot of the toxic Vaush discourse comes from.
Yeah, like exactly. That's why I think that a lot of the arguments people make, like you know, the age of consent comment that he made 2 years ago and then like really quickly went back on.
3 years ago now, I think.
Yeah, the age of consent thing, I think he just misspoke during that incident, right?
Well, no, it was, he genuinely thought that under social.
What's the age of consent thing you guys are referring to? So remember, I'm not familiar with Vaush, right? And I'm sure you have some who are in my position. So you know,
I'll put it up in the chat.
Do you guys remember it better than I do?
So in one of his videos, he was in the middle of or at the end of a rant and alluded to, or maybe even directly stated, that under socialism, age of consent wouldn't exist.
Hold on, I got it right here.
I thought it was like
it was a Discord message.
Yeah, it's a Discord.
Wait, that sounds.
Yeah.
Wait! I thought his age of consent thing had to do with child harm.
No, you're thinking of the CP drama. That's separate.
Okay.
This age of consent thing, it was a Discord message where he said,
"What the hell?"
Well, hold on. That's the narrative that people go with. Let me read it. This was from February 13th, 2018. The way I see it, age of consent exists out of respect for the numerous power imbalances older people have over younger people. As those imbalances, or at least some of them, are redressed through the advent of socialism, the age of consent should therefore be lowered. So people obviously took that, spread it around, and the narrative became that Vaush is a pedophile. Well, since then, he's come out and said that he actually thinks the age of consent should probably be raised. So I see that criticism as moot because he's changed his position. And then there's the CP drama where he was doing a Dead Cell stream and he was alluding to the fact that production that involves child labor is just as immoral as CP. But the way he said it was clipped out of context and made to sound like he was saying that CP was okay. And
Got a question for you.
Go ahead.
So CP is child porn, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. What do you guys think the age of consent should be? Do you think it's good where it is now?
In my country, it's 16.
This is gonna be very unpopular. I think it's fine at 18.
Nah, no. I just need to see where everyone's at.
Yeah. I think it's unpopular to say that I'm fine with it being 18. I think it's like online, like when I go on Twitter, it's like, yo, if you're 25 dating an 18-year-old, then you're a fucking piece of shit garbage predator. I don't mind other people being 25 dating 18-year-olds. I personally wouldn't.
Yeah, that one's a bit.
I think if you seek it out, I think if you're specifically seeking out younger people,
that's fucking weird. Yeah.
Sus. But I mean, sometimes it just ends up like that.
So
case basis, like something as arbitrary as how old you are. It's not a strict idea of how mature you are. There are some people who mature really, really late and should never be in any relationships. Fuck it. But like, there are some people who at the age of 18, which is the age of consent, which is in your probably where it should be, right? Like, there are some of those people who would be fine dating a 25-year-old, but there are some people who would definitely be preyed upon. Like, you can't just say 18, 25 is bad, right?
So it's one of those things. And as far as like what I think the actual thing should be, I mean, scientifically, they would say that it should be 25 because that's when your frontal lobe is formed. But obviously, that's not realistic because
goddamn that prefrontal cortex, huh?
Yeah.
So
figure out consequences and shit.
In the U.S., as far as I'm aware, it almost operates on a sliding scale. It starts at 14 and moves up to like 18 or 19. And I'm not saying state by state. I'm saying like if you include things like the Romeo and Juliet laws and so on, age of consent, like for anyone, I think starts at like 14 and moves up to 18 or 19 when it becomes like fully you're allowed to consent within any age group. And like that seems okay. Putting any number on it feels sketchy. It
feels arbitrary. Yeah, it feels really arbitrary because it is. But that's the unfortunate thing about it is that you have to have some concrete thing to go by, because if you let it be too loosey-goosey, then
it has to be a lowest common denominator, right?
Yeah.
The way I feel about it is I feel like 18 is appropriate. And going with it being too loosey-goosey, a predator is a predator.
Yeah.
At 18, at least you've gained some experience in life to understand what you want, and you can at least gauge certain consequences. I know that, like you said earlier, at 25, your prefrontal cortex is fully developed, but they sending people off to die. At 18, they're not allowing people to buy cigarettes anymore. At 18, you got to be 21 now.
Yeah. Yeah, I have not been able to.
You guys have to wait until 21 until you can get alcohol, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, no bullshit.
Backwards, that's country.
I was 10.
I turn 21 next week, so where I go in mystery.
You turn 21 next. Look at you breaking the law online.
Yeah. Dude, I've got like a weed poster behind me, man. I don't give a fuck.
In Tennessee, wow.
Just breaking the law.
Breaking the law. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that
I'm like
the age of consent conversation is like way beyond the scope of our skill levels.
For sure,
because I mean, like it's there's science about it and there's psychology and shit like that.
Fuck it, the age of consent should be 21. You shouldn't be able to fuck, smoke, drink until you're
I don't know. It would be nice if all of the privilege got to you at one age,
It was just this hard and fast, like, individual point, right?
Oh, did we lose somebody?
We lost thought that we veered too far off of the Vaush subject. I'm sorry.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, it was just some random throw message in Discord that he's walked back, right? And he has since, well, as well as walking back, has since come out as a firm position that it should theoretically be higher, right? And how long is he supposed to be castigated over random Discord messages? Like, what's more important, I think, as a conversation is the Poppy drama, because that is as far as I'm concerned, that is the most heinous thing that he has done. And
what?
Oh, you mean the girl? He's like, I bet you'd love my big fat dick too, type thing. Right?
All the horse cock comments, yeah, like all that kind of shit. Like, because like, it was was it 2017 now? Was it 2017? 2017?
How old were we in 2017?
Has he not made amends with that person? I was under the
22.
impression.
I mean, he has not made amends with her specific them. Is it they them? I think for Poppy, I'm not sure. I think it's they them. I'll go with they them for the moment. I don't think Poppy has, accepted being reached out to by Vaush in this context, but he has obviously come out and admitted his behaviour was completely abhorrent, right? I mean, to the point at which he will literally go online and tweet, "No, literally, I was in DMs. I did this with this girl, and it was really bad." Right? He's completely open with what he's done and owned it in this context. But can we still say, well, how safe can people be around him if they know what he's done previously? Like, that's a conversation that's worth having.
Yeah, are we all perfect here?
Yeah, I mean,
who hasn't made like a flirtatious mistake?
Yeah, I think with that, I mean,
all right, I'm back.
He's been open with it.
Yeah, I think the fact that he's been open with it
was kind of creepy.
Yeah.
But
I guess the question is, what can he do at that point after coming out and trying to reach out to the person and trying to make amends? I think honestly, that's honestly between those two at that point.
Yeah.
Because he's done everything as far as like coming to his audience transparently about it. And I think that as far as reconciling it with the actual person who was harmed, I think that's got to be between them, right?
Sure, and you got to remember he's only 26, right? We were all dickheads when we were 22. I know I was.
I'm 20, and
what do you feel about it, man? Because you've been kind of quiet.
Who'd you ask? Me?
I asked Thought Bat.
Oh, Thought Bat.
Me?
Yes, you.
In terms of the sexual aggressive part, I think the question was asked by Helena. How do we feel? How safe can people feel around Vaush after we know that he's done that? I think the fact that he's come forward and in fact he's been transparent about it was helps his case a lot in terms of like he knows that's him admitting where he knows he's gone wrong. I think for a lot of men who are sexually aggressive a lot of the times, I get the feeling that they're just not self-aware enough to actually know they're in the wrong kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or too prideful to admit it.
Hey, real quick, let's set Horn in. Can you hear me?
Brad Horn?
All right, keep going.
Yeah, so I think the fact that Vaush is self-aware of it and he's identified it and he said, right, this was a bad thing that I did and this is what we're going to avoid in future. I'd say that he's telling his audience exactly what it is that he's done that is wrong. So the audience are going to learn from that as an example and say, right, oh shit, that was a bad thing. If they can identify or recognize themselves doing that in that situation, it kind of helps them not do that. So that's good. That's a good thing for his audience. I know I'm on the Vaush bad side, but on this, I'm going to be completely honest about it. And I think I'll be repeating myself. I think the fact he's transparent about it is him acknowledging that he's self-aware of it, which is a good thing.
Yeah, that's the position I take. Yeah. Like the problem I have with, especially in the left, is that we don't let people apologize. Like either they don't apologize and we continue castigating them because they haven't, or they apologize and you say, well, that's not good enough, or it's only to save face, or you're just walking it back because you know that you want to stop people attacking you online, right? We never treat these apologies in good faith, and it's very, very frustrating that we can't actually have a proper conversation about what constitutes proper restitution in these cases.
We like to
I don't think that has to do with the left. I think that's just like the human condition of watching people on the platform.
I mean, maybe, but also like if you look at the right, they do shit that goes completely against their supposed moral code, and it's just never even talked about.
Well, yeah, that's honestly, if you're going to do something bad, it sounds shitty, but the best thing you can do is don't talk about it and let it blow over.
I completely disagree.
No, I mean from an effective.
situation.
Hold on, because I want to clarify this. This is from a practical standpoint. This is not from a like moral standpoint. This is if I go and I fuck up real bad somewhere. If I apologize for it, I'm gonna. What is that fucking thing called? Where the by trying to hide the things you did wrong. Or by drawing attention to it at all, I'm just making it worse. I'm just making it more obvious.
I think that there are always going to be people who are going to take a non-charitable position to an apology to anything if you've done something that they disagree with. But I think that for your actual fans, the people who are not cutting this issue, the people who are just hearing about it, coming out, putting the spotlight on it, saying, "This is what I did. This is bad. I apologize for it. I'm going to change my behavior in the future." That sets a good precedent in the minds of your audience to be like, okay, this person actually is willing to be held accountable for these things. Because what happens is if you let things blow over, it'll come back up later. And if it comes back up later, people are going to be like, why did you not say anything about this when it happened? And then you're just
Streisand.
I feel like there's
the Streisand effect.
All right, so from a moral standpoint, it's a great thing. It shows that this person has a good character. But from a strategic and political standpoint, I forgot your name, man, with the green headphones on. When he talks about not talking about it and just completely denying it, that's a political strategy, man. That's psychological. If you never admit to it, there will always be a shred of doubt in people's minds, and that will create controversy.
Yeah, the
and
Disney thing.
While people are arguing amongst themselves, it allows you to further push your agenda. Shit, people are talking about Trump grabbing some woman by the pussy, or saying it for so long, they wasn't looking at the laws he was changing, the way he was affecting the country in different ways. You know, because you're so focused on some shit that happened in the past that you get distracted. You're not paying attention to the present.
Yeah, if you explain things, it just
morals and politics don't mix. They're just, you know, it's a part of the puzzle. It's a game piece, man.
Yeah, hard disagree on the morals and politics.
He showed that he had a good character, and people can learn from his mistake because he fully admitted to it. He's just a human being, man. We all got loins. Who here hasn't been horny and said some stupid shit while they were horny? Come on. We all have. I think I did it yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, Horn, is your mic working? Nope, you're muted.
Got the epic fucking mustache and beard, bro.
Yeah, right?
Yo, for real, yeah.
Eat your heart out.
Your mic, you're muted.
Like, I don't agree with him. Like, I heard a little bit about it before from my roommate about that incident, and he was talking about how he had a fucking horse cock. Damn, women don't even like big dicks nowadays, man. That's like some shit from the 80s. But yeah, you don't.
It's all about catties and the maid's dresses nowadays.
Oh yes, the 80s, the decade of big dicks.
Big dicks, big boobs, all that. But you know,
the 90s was the big boobs time.
90s
it was
fucked
too.
up. It was everyone was like so fucking horny.
Like the ideal woman in the 90s is like no ass, huge knockers.
The 60s.
Thank God,
the
everyone
60s was like surfboards.
At least two of us wouldn't be here, right? If they were.
Let's see.
But go ahead. I forgot what I was gonna say.
I think the whole being very difficult to sort of forgive and forget with the left is possibly a bad product from a good attitude. Let me explain what I mean. On the left,
That's an
I think
interesting
people
one.
hold very high standards for their
I'd like
figures
to hear that
represent them.
justification.
Because obviously, if you're left wing, you're promoting a progress in ethics, I suppose.
Do you think the left is weaker for that, for holding such high standards when the right doesn't?
No.
I think it is.
I don't think there's. I wouldn't say weaker.
No.
I'd say it's perhaps a difficulty will just have literally anyone on their side so long as they get some votes. I think. Okay, yeah, it does help them a little bit, but it's just something that I think
it might make us
got to navigate
weaker.
around.
it might make us weaker, but I also think that it's a testament to our actual beliefs. Because here's the thing: a lot of fascists, a lot of reactionaries, a lot of conservatives, they really don't have ideology. They have a few key issues that they care about, and they will put their roots behind anybody who agrees with them on those issues. And on the left, it's a little bit different. First of all, we're not the ones in power. They are kind of the ones in power, ultimately. Even though we have a Democrat as president, we're still underneath neoliberal hegemony.
Still very right wing.
Yeah, and so we're fighting from underneath.
That man is barely democratic.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he may as well be a Republican, but you could say that about just about every Democrat from the last 50 years, it seems like.
These people on the right can coalesce around the status quo, which allows them to be able to not be discerning about the people that they're allied with, because as long as they generally agree on protecting the status quo, then they can get on regardless of those differences. Whereas on the left, we have this massive disunity of thought. When you're challenging the status quo, you have to propose an alternative. So we fight amongst us about what those alternatives should be, right?
Yeah, right. And also, I mean, we have on the left has a lot of marginalized folks who are affected directly by the system. And personally, I don't want to bring people into the kind of leftist spaces that I'm in who have reactionary opinions about black folks or transgender folks and stuff like that. Do I think there should be a space for those people on the left to develop? Certainly. But I don't think that space is,
leadership.
Say again?
This is something that I think we need to get better at on the left. Hi everyone. Sorry, I forgot I had push to talk active. We need to get better.
A little bit.
Oi.
Oh, sorry, the microphone's a bit too loud?
Yes.
Very much so.
Spiking.
Oh, sorry there. I'll jump back in with my thought when I've got that sorted.
Thank you. Sorry, Radhorn. Yeah.
Can we get him to do an introduction when he gets his shit together?
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm down.
How's that level sounding?
That's a lot better, yeah.
Just to triple check.
Fantastic.
Just triple check, by the way. Everyone apart from me is he, him, right?
Yes. Well, I am.
Sick.
Yeah, we should have put our pronouns in there.
I should completely forgot about that. Such a bad trans person.
I was just saying, something that I think we should get a lot better at on the left is having a more clear delineation of spaces with different kinds of purpose. So we should have spaces where recently de-radicalized fascists are welcome and where they can be taught these things, because we need those kinds of spaces. And we should also have
I'm not going to be doing very
strict
well here,
safe space hug boxes where people who need that kind of thing can just go and be completely safe from people with reactionary tendencies. And we should have advocacy spaces that are more open and mingling for people that haven't yet started their journey down
let us know whether
the
you think
path.
Vaush bad or Vaush
I think the problem is that I think a lot of people treat I agree, I absolutely 100% agree. But I think a lot of people treat online leftist discourse and online leftist spaces as social clubs. I'm like, well, I don't care about building a social club. I care about winning and building a political movement, right? And unfortunately, you have to make some sacrifices when building a large-scale political movement, because not everyone's going to agree with you on every single point. I may get, people may hate me for this, but if someone has a less than colourful, opinion of trans people in general, but of which I am one, but they agree with me on class issues, then I'll find solidarity with them on that and they agree with my not only with they agree on class issues, they also agree on my methods with which to ameliorate these class issues, right? I can forgive them for maybe not being particularly accepting of the fact that I'm trans, right? I know that's a kind of a contentious opinion to take, but at the end of the day, right, what is genuinely hurting me more? My existing as I guess I'm only a white trans person, so that's a pretty privileged position of me to take. But what's hurting me more, the fact that I'm trans, or the fact that I'm stuck working 40 hours a week in a job that makes me want to put a bullet in my head? Right. Come on.
I mean, I can understand that to a degree, but also I'm just going to relate it to what I'm most familiar with. If you're in an activist space and you are part of a group of people who are working towards an idea, and part of that idea is decolonization, and if you're with a bunch of people who they understand class issues and they understand race issues a little bit, but they don't understand decolonization. They don't understand the need for like solidarity with like Native American folks. And then you have Native American folks that are also part of that organization. They're going to feel like they're being left behind. Because the more popular, the more unifying ideals are the only ones getting talked about. But
that's fair point.
But, you know, part of being a leftist is shining light on these things that are not so obvious to every member of the population. You know,
that's a really good point.
That's part of intersectionality.
It's, you know, being a leftist is an interesting stance because you're trying to fight against indoctrination and propaganda, and you're trying to show people the way things are and the potential routes to make things better. It reminds me of the allegory of Plato's cave. Are you guys familiar with that?
Is that where people have their backs to the wall or the backs to the sky and getting looking at the wall?
All we know is the shadows, and we've never seen the outside world.
Yeah, I was actually just making a video on that recently.
You was?
Yeah, I was working on a thing for that.
You're the fucking best. Okay. So basically, in a nutshell, it's if you were bound and bonded in such a way that you can only see a wall, and behind you was a fire, and you see these shadows. And you've always seen these shadows. These are the first things you ever seen, and these things you're seeing now. And so you believe these shadows are what's real. You believe them to be, like if you've seen a shadow of a sword, you think that's the sword. And if someone shows you an actual sword, you believe that the actual sword is the shadow, since you have no point of reference. It's hard to expose people to the truth, man. It's what's the saying? It's easier to lie to someone than convince them that they've been lied to.
Yeah, I think a big reason for this is how familiar you guys are with the works of Foucault, Nietzsche even, I suppose. In terms of capitalism as basic example, this applies intersectionally as well, but I'm just going to talk about capitalism. We are kind of socialized to associate the capitalist as the ideal person, morally speaking. So they're great leaders, they're good business-minded, they're rational thinkers, they know how to get things done, blah, 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 blah. And so therefore they earned all their wealth, and therefore these are the idealist people that we need to look up to. So what happens then is people try to relate to that kind of character. They try and sort of justify their aspirations to be like that. So end up sort of really investing in this archetype. Now, when you go to a working class person who is having this kind of Stockholm syndrome, this kind of belief that they are going to one day be this.
Don't forget to vote in the chat.
They are very similar to this capitalist.
Vaush rad or Vaush bad.
They're parasites.
Using channel points.
And you look at them very bluntly. They become very offended. They become very sort of not comfortable with that kind of framing because of their identification.
It's that displaced billionaire effect.
Cultural liberalism.
So temporarily embarrassed millionaire. That's it.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that is definitely the prevailing ideology in the South.
That's how I feel. Like I'm an embarrassed rich person that's poor right now.
It's a cult of aspiration. That's what it is.
Ooh, I like that phrase.
There's all
capitalism is good at building an infrastructure in a society. It's nice in the beginning because it motivates people, but after a while it just kind of fizzles out because the people who gain power just fucking hoard it all for themselves.
Well, I mean, what happens is it begins a steady climb of growth at the beginning, and then that growth exponentially gets faster as time goes on, and the people who can't keep up, i.e. poor people, get left behind.
It's basic Marxism, right? And it's that you know, socialism is the end point of capitalism, right?
Yeah. Well, we're hoping so. You know,
you said that fascism is the end point of capitalism. Is that what you said?
Socialism.
Socialism or fascism, right?
Hopefully not national socialism. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, there's several fucking endpoints. You know, there's socialism, there's fascism, there's stick and rock world. You know, we don't know how this shit's
yes,
going to turn
the
out.
Anprim fantasy.
Good old return to Monkey.
All that we can hope is that we, as the left, are steering this ship in the right direction and steering it with enough force to actually get there before we inevitably hit the fucking wall of climate change or global poverty or automation or whatever it is that's going to like end the world as we know it. And so,
climate change isn't real. No, I'm joking.
I debated someone that didn't believe in that actually the other day.
To be fair, the way
no, automation is fucking.
We had a prime minister that didn't believe in that a few years ago.
You know,
we had a president who didn't believe in that a few years ago.
Like literally a year
very
ago.
true.
I news fucks up your country.
Last year.
I don't know if Trump didn't believe in it. I just don't think he believed in like the money he would lose. You know?
Trump didn't believe in anything. It was an actual. It was just an actual provocateur.
China, right?
Here's the thing.
I think that was an actual tweet of his.
Old ass rich people don't have to believe in climate change or COVID or anything because they are going to be dead before it affects them.
Or they're going to be so rich it won't affect them.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Our former prime minister said, and I quote, "Climate change is absolute crap."
Sure is. It fucking sucks.
Love it.
Sure, Murdoch slipped in plenty of money.
I heard about climate change. I was a kid and I was hanging around my grandfather, and he was working on his car, and he just started to talk about how it was warmer on average. Like it was a lot hotter nowadays than it was in the past. That's just the conversations he would have with me when I was a kid.
True.
And then I start seeing like people don't understand the difference between climate and weather. You know, it's just ignorance.
Well, the same way people don't understand the difference between like a personal like, you know, how you deal with personal wealth and how you deal with like country's wealth, right? How people don't make the distinction between the two.
Or with how people don't know the difference between sex and gender.
But that's the system.
Or estrogen and phytoestrogen.
I don't know the difference. What, phytoestrogen?
Phytoestrogen is just a
plant compound that does a similar role to estrogen in plants, but doesn't actually affect humans in the same way.
Oh, I'm here to talk about Vaush, not a lot of fucking nerds.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I was about to get back to that. All right, so what's one thing, like one example that we can talk about of Vaush being a fucking bad person?
So
talk about Vaush.
I want something good. Like, give me something. Like, I'm in the middle. Like,
can we talk about the N-word drama?
I don't give a fuck about that. I really don't think like most black people give a fuck about his contextual use of the N-word. It'd be like black people being like, "Oh man, fucking Leo DiCaprio said it in fucking Django Unchained." Type shit, like his context.
I was going to say the only times I've ever seen him use it was when he was talking to a racist individual, and he's like, "Listen, why don't you just fucking say it then?"
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I've talked to some black folks who are not super happy about it. But I mean, regardless of that, I just feel like first of all, I don't think it worked. In the debate.
Can I say something about it?
Clearly not seen it.
Yeah. Please.
If I may interject, I am kind of a black person here, and I hang around a lot of black people myself. But I actually hang around everybody. When he said it, and I heard about it, and then I watched it, like the clip and shit. Like, I watched a portion of it. He just trolled those motherfuckers.
Yeah.
You know, I feel, you know, like I said earlier, when you're on a public platform, you gotta be a little careful because things are taken out of context. But fuck, man, who doesn't say the N-word now? In this room, right now. Let's keep it gangster, yo.
All right.
Who hasn't fucking said it?
I am way too white to say it. Almost ever. The only time I'd say it is actually in a similar context to what I was referencing when I'm talking to a fucking member of the KKK or something, and being like, "Why don't you just say what you're actually thinking?"
I say that shit when I'm fucking ordering breakfast, bro.
I'm in Australia, so the N-word isn't really culturally a thing down here. So I've never had the urge to say it. It doesn't really get used in conversation.
You've never.
The closest I've ever come is describing a Spanish paint company called Vallejo, and they're a Spanish company, so some of their dark colors are like negro gray, which is just black.
But Negro
gray.
is black in Spanish. That's what it literally.
Yeah,
you can't
that's the closest I've ever come to dropping an N-bomb.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, in Australia, you have like a cheese that's named after a racist epithet, which is hilarious.
Yeah, we have our own racist terms over here that are very specific.
Yeah, I've heard that certain European countries have.
The name of the cheese?
There was a cheese called COON, with Twitchways, so I don't want to actually say the word.
Oh, wow.
Can I say it?
It was called that because that was the family surname of the people who started the company. But it just got changed last year.
Bro, would you eat that cheese, Taj?
I'm not really a big cheese head, man. I'm not.
I
probably would.
I would eat that.
I have.
It's probably some good fucking cheese. You put that bitch on a cracker. Wait, that sounded bad. I'm sorry. I gotta be careful what I say.
That was a great joke.
Look, see, you can't. The point I just made with that joke is you can't fucking say anything anymore, man. It's just language. Like,
yeah, I mean,
I know a lot of it has weight, but the way I feel about Vaush saying the N-word, man, he doesn't come across to me as racist at all. I watch him troll so many racist people, man. It's fucking hilarious.
What are you talking about? He is seriously racist against British people.
True.
I hate British people too. No, I'm joking.
Here's the way I feel about it. Like,
is he like prejudiced against British people for real?
Yeah, he fucking is. What can?
Ooh.
Oh, really?
We're gonna say English people on that one. He doesn't have Celtic blood.
Do you think he knows the difference between a Welsh person and an English person? He's clearly like one of
he knows the difference between a Celt and a fucking angle, so it's fine.
Well, I guess. Like,
do you think he's more prejudiced to British people than the standard American, though?
No, I don't think so, but I just think he's really kind of culturally ignorant about Europe and a lot of other parts of the world as well. He's very kind of America-centric. I mean, to be fair, lots of Americans are, so I'm not going to hold it over him.
I don't think I could name 5 European dishes. Like,
wait, I can name one. Can I name one? I'm very proud of that. I know this one.
Hit it.
Wait.
Oh no.
Chocolate sandwich biscuits. And if I translate that into American, that's an Oreo.
Jesus.
True.
Wait, you just said European, not British, just European?
Okay then.
Dude, why the
Can I
fuck
name
do they call
5?
paychecks wage packets?
European, bro.
All right, so back on topic.
Please,
Someone was trying to say something.
If you want to make British food, you just put it in a sandwich. Anything. Crisp sandwich, ramen noodle sandwich, anything, right? My point, though, I was going to make was about the Vaush N-word drama, which was that, okay, brilliant. I understand that it probably isn't a massive deal, but what did he gain from doing it? Like, I don't think he gained anything.
I think he just wanted to say it. It was kind of cringe.
Yeah, he just
gained cringe points. That's all he gained
by being brazen for no reason.
Yeah,
so
the thing about racism is that, like, doing something racist is not how racism happens. Racism happens when somebody is like when they've had that like, done against them, when something racist happens to them, right? And so if people in his audience, people of color in his audience felt like that was racist, then he did something racist, and he needs to like be accountable for that. Because
there we go with the accountability talk, though.
But
we've already established that accountability thing is useless.
Did black people in his audience feel that way? I just don't know what people in his audience felt that way.
You don't know how anybody. But you
I mean,
do know that
Taj does. Taj knows how Taj feels.
No, but what I'm saying is, I'm not talking about just Taj or just anybody else. I'm talking about the plurality of people of color in his audience. We don't know how they all feel, but I can guess based on like what I know about the N-word and what I know about how it's been used historically.
You're using a bad framework there because you're using a third-person framework.
No, he has a. Like, you both have a point. You both have a good point.
I think
it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up. Certain people of color feel certain types of way about different things.
I think
it's a big word. You know, it has a lot of weight and history behind it, and the ways. You know, times are different now because fuck, dude, I hear like teenagers saying it from all different ethnic backgrounds, and it just became a slang term nowadays. But in the way that he used it, I know that he was trolling that racist person when he used it, and like Taj said, he did get some cringe points there. But
Yeah, it's cringe as hell.
You know, me and Taj both aren't like heavily offended by it. You know, it's not like a dagger that struck us in the heart. I'll still listen to Vaush. But if I met Vaush, I'd be like, hey man, just watch your mouth a little bit, bro.
I think we're all under the agreement that it was definitely cringe,
Yeah.
but probably not like explicitly, like not like definitively racist, right? It was bad optics, cringe, and not didn't gain anything from it. But does this mean that he's a racist? Like,
I actually
no.
disagree with you don't gain anything from it. Because the thing is, I'm from Western Maryland. I'm from up in the mountains where there's a KKK church, and like everybody just knows it's there.
They have
A KKK church? That's insane.
Yeah, and the thing is, I frequently engage with racist people, and I'm sorry, they think they have power over you if you have trouble saying the N-word. And so when you come out and you just hard say it, you've taken that power away from them. You strip them of that conniving little goblin they get to be by trying to cajole you into saying it.
Yeah, I mean, I live down in the deep, dirty South, and there's a similar kind of phenomenon down here. People like to say, but I've found the opposite. Like, if you are steadfast and you're like, no, I'm not going to fucking say that shit, and if you keep saying that shit, I'm going to bust you in your mouth, like, then they'll fucking stop, or there'll be a problem, you know? I've never been in a situation like that, but I have been in a situation where I've had to tell people, like, hey, stop saying that fucking word, and when they realize that you're serious, they stop.
Really, I'm
not
heard...
exactly on board with the whole I'm going to say this N-word to disempower Nazis and whatever, or KKK members. But I think for Vaush, if you're a political figure, which he is, who is claiming to speak in the interests of the black community to help raise them to be, you know, on an equal footing.
I think there's good reason for hitting someone.
Kind of got to take their concerns into mind, haven't you? You can't. If the majority of black people do not like it when you say the N-word, then you don't say the N-word. I think that's a very, very simple rule to take. And the thing is, Bush didn't get that. So I know he's took that back, and I know he has made videos, and I've seen them where he's talking about how that was actually a bad decision. He used to defend it, but he doesn't anymore.
Yeah, and
I'd still say you can't.
I think the fact that he's walking back.
If somebody calls your mother a whore or something, and you really care about your mother, you punch him in the face. You're fine.
Not that his audience should just unilaterally agree with whatever he does, but like, if you're in the business of defending Vaush,
I feel like the anti-Vaush crowd feel like that. None of his fans ever criticize him, which is like complete nonsense. Like his fans criticize him all the time.
We criticize him constantly.
Yeah,
well, I mean, the VDS crowd is real.
Yeah, I
just
agree
because
with
I'm here saying that Vaush bad does not mean that I'm one of them.
Oh, I would definitely.
But it's just But there is a similar sect of that in Vaush's community of people who will like staunchly defend him on anything.
That's going to happen with any person who's large enough. I mean, Vaush has a massive community.
Yeah.
There is a general, so this relates both to this specifically and to Vaush's controversies in general that I'd like to... so both Taj and Raw have, went and looked at a bit more of the context of how Vaush used that word. And from what you've said, seem to come to your conclusion that, you're okay with how it was used in that instance. And there's this wider thing where it seems like a lot of people taking very severe and vitriolic issue with the things that Vaush does or says are often relying on small segments that have been selected to either remove critical information or to just present this most inflammatory part of a discussion without, and thus, spreading around kind of what is probably while it feels dishonest and like disinformation, it is probably meant genuinely from a lot of people who share it. So I'm not trying to put aspersions on them, but I do get the impression that there are a lot of people who have gotten this idea of Vaush bad, and it's a meme, and it's a big meme that's caught on through the left, and And because of that, they will see any proof that someone presents, and they won't be critical in approaching that proof. And they won't go, okay, hang on, what was actually being discussed? What went on here?
Right.
The whole CP, Vaush supporting CP controversy is all about that. Like, that was admittedly a poorly worded argument, but it was about vegan ethics, and people went and ran with that in a really weird direction. I think there's a similar root thing in a lot of the Vaush bad controversies.
Yeah, the people don't know. People do not know how to do research, because the average person believes the first thing they hear if it's from a semi-trusted source.
Yeah.
So
that's very
if
true.
someone presents you with some information, like Vaush saying the N-word, fuck, man. I don't like when people say the N-word too much. I don't really use it often, unless I'm at Burger King and they're pissing me off. But
so there's an idea that I want to present to all of you folks. Anyone who's got any degree of a platform, whether it's like me, I get like 2 or 3 viewers a stream. I'm just starting out, but to really try and push the skills for people to learn media literacy. It's a teach a man to fish situation, because the more that people can look at and understand and analyze the media in front of them without having to rely on talking heads like us to tell them what to think, the more good faith discussion I think we'll be able to foster on the left.
I think if we can learn how to tell people, if we can learn how to teach people how to think, how to be skeptical, that's the point. But then again, if we are trying to like build a platform, we're all going to be a little selfish and be persuasive to people to make people think more like us. That way they're attracted to our content. But the biggest thing is to teach people how to be skeptical, critical thinkers.
But the problem is we have an educational system that explicitly wants to do the opposite of that, because our education system is set up.
Cogs for the machine.
Yeah, exactly. They explicitly press on neoliberal propaganda, for instance, from day one, right?
I kind of wanted to touch on just like the core of my issues with Vaush. The whole idea of not mobilizing people enough. Honestly, it's not even so much a problem I have with Vaush. It's just a problem I have with the online left as a whole. Only reason I'm talking about Vaush in this scenario is because that's what the topic of discussion is, right? But it really is an issue, because I feel like that, our cause is urgent. People are continuing to die because they don't have food, or they're getting shot by police, or wherever else it is. And the planet is continuing to die, and it's continuing to get hotter. And as the left, there's only so much utility in these types of conversations. But there's a whole lot more of a utility in like conversations with like a local farmer about setting up like a supply chain to a local town, so that if
he's 19,
society collapses,
or no, he's 20,
and you can't get food at your local Walmart.
Here in about a month, he said he's turning 21
from within your community, right? And that's a project that we would be interested in doing as leftists. But
it's an interesting.
Instead of talking about those things, though, we talk about people like Vaush, and we talk about these social phenomena, and it's not that these things aren't important. It's just that these things are, they can kind of clog up the works when it comes to getting to the real meat of our cause.
Although, I mean, to be fair, what he's talking about is really important.
And so what you're saying is, because Vaush has such a big following, with great power comes great responsibility. He has more of a responsibility to put these people together. But on the same token,
it's actually part of why we need young people in the left.
Converting a lot of people from the right to the left.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, he is doing a part of the work.
But he's getting a large following, man. And some of those people that he's converting, they may be the type to go out there and put their feet to the streets. I'm not an online guy.
Yeah.
When I see a problem, I go on the streets, man. I was so one thing I did, right? When the riots first began, online I was writing stories, and some of them got hundreds of thousands of views, hundreds of thousands of shares and millions of views. And so and the point was, I was talking about Black history, why black people are mad, like the outcomes of these trials and these deaths, like Trayvon Martin and other innocent people that were shot and killed by the police, and them or their families didn't receive no justice. So I became pissed off at the people who are ignorant. I became so angry. I was blinded by emotion, and I was gonna make a speech filled with fucking anger. And one of my friends talked to me the night before, right? I was gonna speak in front of 400 people, and he called me and he said, "Yo, Victor's my real name. Do you notice what's happening?" I was like, "Yeah, people are being stupid." And he's like, "No, look, man, I have friends that been friends their whole lives, like for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and they're arguing over political beliefs." And so I seen the pattern. Like, I'm sure you guys had disagreements with your friends. Taj, you had to, right?
Oh yeah.
The people that you would never think would say racially charged things to, because that's happened to me. And so when I went out and made my speech, when I started talking to people, I talked to both sides. I knew one side was afraid of the other, and one side was upset with the other over ignorance. And so I tried to pull people together. But I won't do that online. I'd rather go out and be out there in front of the people, actually talk to people there. But Vaush has the power to do it online. Vaush had, like, so I have a social intelligence. If we're face to face, I can read you, I can talk to you, like I can get on your level. But talking to like a huge audience over the internet, that's a different monster, man. He might not have it yet. He might be acquiring this skill. I don't think you should be upset with him. I mean, if you're going to be disappointed in him, okay, but don't be upset because he's still doing something good. He's still trying in his own way, you know?
I wouldn't say that I'm upset with Vaush. I would more just say that I am kind of disappointed with him, but just, you know, the online left broadly. It's just because, like... Go ahead.
So there's a few things that he does do that I think are good in that front with encouraging IRL activism. He has gotten a number of people on who are involved in IRL activist and community support mutual aid projects and gotten them on to talk about things like organizational strategies. He's often used, albeit quite meany, kind of, you know, get out, get involved, go to protest things with, hey, you're a lonely so-and-so, you can get out there and make some friends, and who knows, maybe even some love will bloom when you're out there throwing bottles at the police, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, he's brought it up and he's touched on it. It's just, I just feel like that if I were in his position, and obviously it's completely hypothetical because who knows what you're going to do in that position, but I would like to think that if I was in that position,
this is a very I'm 20 years old take.
Hard to like plug people into local resources and stuff like that because, you know, I've been in rooms with folks who like they talk about, you know, their history and activism, like, you know, people die doing this stuff, right? And so it's like it's an imperative kind of thing, and I feel like the left almost thinks of it as not like that.
Do you mind if I push back on this one? Because
go ahead.
And I don't mean to discourage you because I know you're young, and that's actually a really important thing. The way you're looking at things right now is a really important thing, but it's also in part because of how young you are that like you're seeing that like this you're thinking of things very locally right now. Mm-hmm. You're imagining it's almost like the imagination that's going on is saying that Vaush's fandom is a fandom that sits in one room, and it's unfortunately not. Mm-hmm. You're not like when you talk to these other groups, when you're engaged in this activism that you're doing in real life, you're sitting there in a room with these other people. You can give them local resources. Imagine then having to channel that to every locality. We have people here from Europe. We have people here from the middle U.S. I'm from the East Coast. We might have people listening from the West Coast. Imagine being the single individual and trying to filter all of these people into their local resources. You can say, go out and vote local, but it's very hard to actually encourage people local.
Yeah, I think go ahead.
Yeah, you both made good points. Bodhi, like you're right. Like he should encourage people to do things more locally.
Thank you for the follow.
Nobodies, you're also right. Vaush has a large audience all around the world. Like there are people in the United States and Canada and the UK, Latin America that listen to him. But I think you can encourage people, even with the national scope you are, to do work locally.
Yeah, I actually misspoke.
You can tell people, hey, go on Instagram, type in your city's name, protest, hashtag, say I live in Orlando, hashtag Orlando protest, see what comes up. Go on Facebook, see what you can find. It's not all the protests out there. I know a lot of groups organized on Signal and on Telegram now, but that's a good head start. Or how to start your own local org. Like Vaush doesn't have to speak on that, but he can have so many people in his audience like come on for like a town hall or for things like that. So I think it's possible for him to do that.
Yeah, I think
when it comes to protesting, I don't think it's like. I don't think that should be the number one priority because I don't think it's that effective to reach the end of a means. There's so many other things that you have to do besides protest. Like you can gather when you protest, you gather the attention of the masses, and you.
Oh no, Torn Shadows almost escaped.
But then you have to use that people power in other ways because
they're really good for awareness.
And
but
you think that's the end of it? You're fucking stupid. You don't.
I think people are more moved by personal connections anyway. Like I think you're much more likely to convert one of your friends over to your position through just a conversation that you have with them. Just talk about your friends with unionizing, like talk about your workmates with unionizing, things like that. These are things that actually have an impact on a local level, much more so than just putting up a placard and standing around. Because at the end of the day, half the time it's just virtue signaling to other people. Like I hate to use that phrase, but a lot of the time that's all protest ends up being.
It's true.
Like
protesting, like this is actually like
No Justice is.
Go ahead.
As I said, No Justice has brought up a really good point. It's something that's been rattling around in my head since Bodhi brought up this topic, and that's what can online leftists do, and especially like we're talking about Vaush, so content creators, people with platforms, do to help advance offline activism and offline furtherance of leftist causes. I'll start off with two examples that come to mind. One is, I'm sure you've all seen the stuff that Destiny's been doing like on-the-ground, door-to-door rally drives for Democratic candidates.
Yeah, for the United States Senate in Georgia Senate.
Yeah,
and for the mayor of Oklahoma. Nebraska. Sorry.
On a much kind of smaller, more community level, Actual Jake of Hannah and Jake does, I think once a month, they do a mutual support stream where he selects causes from within his community. So, maybe someone's facing homelessness or needs to save money for a surgery, whether that be essential surgery or like a really personally important elective surgery kind of thing. And they do
unfortunately,
fundraising for that person's particular thing on that day. So he's building a sense of community around those principles of mutual aid. So I was just wondering, does anyone have any thoughts on other examples that people can do and use?
Yeah, I think that...
Okay, sorry, go for it, sorry.
I think that, honestly, the main thing is signal boosting. I am almost certain that there are plenty of people in Vaush's audience who are activists in some capacity at home. And if they're anything like me, I emailed Vaush about like some of the stuff that I was engaging with and stuff like that. And I think that it would be good for content creators to, when they see this kind of thing from their audience, signal boost it and say, this is a good example of how you can apply your ideas in the real world. And this isn't me being salty because Vaush didn't respond to my email. I could honestly care less about that. But you know, if it was, you know, something with a little bit bigger scale, you know, I would like to see, you know, a segment on that, like, hey, you know, somebody hit me up and told me about this awesome thing they're doing, and signal boost that idea and put that seed into people's heads so they'll want to replicate it.
Similar to like the thought slime eyeball zone, right? Just like try and put a spotlight on things that are happening so people can get engaged, you know. Otherwise we're just going to spend online all the time developing parasocial relationships with streamers from Seattle. Like, come on, like that's why I think that's why I think it's good that he exists. He's good at convincing people. As I said, I think personal relationships are the way you change opinions and the way you get to people, and parasocial relationships are, you know, fortunately they're part of that, and that's why people get convinced by him, because he's a personality and engages with people on that wavelength. But unless he's using that position to be able to get people to engage outside of that, I think it's wasted potential.
Speaking of people paying attention to things real quick, do y'all mind if I do a plug real quick?
Yeah, of course.
If anybody's interested in voting voting in the poll, we have sort of an ongoing thing over on my chat at twitch.tv/MrNobodies, where you get to vote Vaush bad or Vaush rad. Just pop on over. You can vote with channel points if you just hang out in the chat.
So I'm going to make my last point before I go, because it's about 25 to midnight. I need to go to work at 6:30. We would question how much responsibility we really should be putting on Vaush to. I know this doesn't sound like a Vaush bad position. How much responsibility we actually should be putting on Vaush to do things like union action? Because, for example, he's not a union leader. He's not part of a union. He's not really a worker. That's something that the unions do themselves. That's something that BLM do themselves. They're the ones doing the grassroots organisations. You can't be a grassroots organisation.
Hey, thanks for the follow, Barsand.
For example. Of course, that Vaush can signal boost and do all that. That's
hey, thanks for the follow, Fudge.
His role as a YouTuber. His role as a YouTuber is to just spread narratives, spread rhetoric, try and get people inside and all the rest of it. So I kind of look at what he does in that regard. My problem with Vaush is, this might be the next part of our conversation, is his relationship with the Democrat Party. I think throwing the resources and throwing the intellectual capacities of the left into the black hole, which is electoralism, is my reason, one of my reasons.
Hey, partisan action, thanks for the follow.
I say that it distracts so heavily, encouraging leftists locally and nationally to engage in electoral politics.
3 IBs about to be released into the world.
Direct action, which actually does any good. That was a big ramble, but...
So, thought that. Well, question 1.
I agree with Josh on that. All the way. What was your question?
Oh, so just going to run through a few quick questions. Do you think that there is a material difference between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you agree that in general the Republican Party has worse outcomes for a good number of people in America than the Democratic Party?
In general, yeah.
Are you familiar with the problems with first-past-the-post voting systems and the spoiler effect?
Yeah, we have that in the UK.
Yeah. So, given those factors, there is no reason for him to not push for people to vote for the Democrats. And I really dislike this false equivalency of you can either engage in electoralism or do direct action. No, we have to do both. We have to build dual power. We need to, be bolstering and supporting unions, but we also need to be doing everything we can to get politicians in who will be more friendly towards unionization. And even if it's only by a couple of degrees, the Democrats are more friendly towards unions and workers than the Republicans are.
I think what I'd agree with, though, is the idea that I think the V-Man spent far too much of his time engaging with this when, I think, sure, we can we can get people to vote for the Democrats to, from a harm reduction perspective. And I think that's a very good thing. And I think him being critical of Bernie or bust leading up to the election was a good point that he made. But continually focusing on something as bland as how do we convince the Democrats on X, Y, Z? How do we move the Democrats on X, Y, Z? You're moving a snail. It's like pushing a pea up Ben Nevis with your nose, right? Like, how much change can we actually do within the Democratic Party when we could be doing something that actually has a real world impact? When yes, we should be doing. Because we should be getting people to get engaged with electoral politics from a harm reduction perspective. Because obviously, at the end of the day, if we want to be able to unionize, our vehicle with which to do so is through the political process in trying to make it so that we have the best chance of being able to do so. But that's and apart from using the electoral platform to be able to push our ideas rhetorically. Like being able to use that as a jumping off point, as a soapbox with which to relay our ideas to people, just like Bernie Sanders did, even if he didn't win the nomination. That doesn't mean we should spend our entire time post-election then going, well, this is what Biden's doing, this is what the Democrats are doing, blah blah blah. When there's plenty more things we should be looking at from a direct action perspective.
Exactly.
Before we go, I really want to respond. Sorry, mate. Before we go, I'm going to go soon. Before I do, I need to respond to that. So it isn't. I understand what you're saying. It's not exactly a this or that kind of situation, but in terms of where you invest resources, it kind of is. Do you invest £10 or $10 into this cause, or do you invest it into that cause? Do you split it half and half? It's up to you. But we tried this in the UK with the Labour Party.
Yeah,
it burns our
that's
fingers
unfortunate.
Really badly. So we got Jeremy Corbyn involved into the leadership of the Labour Party.
The thing is that we've not actually been that far into Biden's presidency.
Going towards the Labour campaign. Union activity, by the way, plummeted in the UK. When
I just looked up and
that's actually an interesting point because
Bodie looks psychotic as fuck right now.
They were focused on making sure Jeremy Corbyn wins.
He's got a very serious face on,
and he's got
like the lights going.
You've got the whole conservative establishment on their side, and you've got all the media on their side.
Hey, thanks for following No Justice.
I've lost my track here. Basically, when I call electoral politics a black hole, it just sucks all the resources away from direct action, and it does do that. I've gone blank again. So
yeah. So essentially,
I agree.
It's any resources that I personally expend on electoralism. I can't spend that on direct action. And while that's fine, unfortunately, direct action, while it can be helpful, in the long term isn't as useful as electoralism.
The other thing as well is that electoralism happens once every 4 years or whatever, whereas you can do direct action anytime.
It's actually a thing that I was fairly certain was going to happen is sort of happening. We are getting this political chilling effect now that Donald Trump is out of office. All these political commentators are hitting a content drought.
Just back on the menu.
Yeah, the thing is that, criticizing Biden is just not as...
push back on the idea of direct action not being as effective long term as electoralism. Are you familiar with Rojava?
Nope.
You talking about the coffee?
Is that in Washington?
The Democratic Republic in Syria.
Thank you.
The Kurds.
Rojava
is interestingly it is electoralism, but it's ground up it's direct democratic electoralism, kind of it's not electoralism like we think of it in our advanced Western democracies, but it is definitely a political process that's intertwined with direct action.
It moved shit.
Well, yeah, just the and I'm not. This is not me fucking dissing you guys at all, but the fact that some people don't know about Rojava. That's wow, the online left is not doing a good job of telling people about
my flatmate's from Java. And on that note, I'm going. See you later, guys.
All right, have a nice night, Thought Bat.
Okay, yeah, Thought Bat. I'd love to talk to you about electoralism later on.
Well, things
at a better time for you.
how many people realised that there were anti-capitalist protests, like riots happening in Senegal? Like, how many people were aware of that? Probably very few. Like,
I wasn't.
I didn't have a clue
I did
about
not
it
know
until
about
you
that.
just mentioned it now.
yeah, like there's
I've
like one
heard
of
of it.
the anti I guess
Oof,
not
okay.
explicitly anti-capitalist, but like anti-establishment candidates being essentially imprisoned by the ruling party on accusations. I'm not going to say whether they're spurious or not because I'm not looked into it enough to know. But essentially, the youth of Senegal are having their resources extracted sent to France. It's an anti-imperialist protest as well because part of them is trying to remove themselves from kind of French influence because that's a post-colonial era influence, right? And that's why the protests are happening because of the poor living standards and the poor economic prospects for the youth in Senegal. Interesting, very interesting.
As it currently stands, I don't know if I have any hard, concrete reason to believe that electoralism doesn't work. Because if I elected someone that was anti-capitalist, that they'd get imprisoned by the state. I just don't.
Well, it's not that they would be imprisoned by the state, but it's the fact that the corporate media is going to do everything in its power for that person not to get nominated.
Right.
Okay, so do you think that there's a non-electoral way we could improve these conditions?
Yes.
What?
So first of all, I don't think it can be a countrywide thing. I think it has to be a region-based thing. I think that people need to start these kind of obviously when it starts it's going to be local, but you want it to expand. These kind of mutual aid projects, these kind of what we're doing here in Appalachia. The idea is to create a canopy for collapse, a survival economy, and then a foundation for resistance. What that basically means is that setting up things where people can get their food from their local community, people can get healthcare in their local community, even things like community defense and policing, right? And these
he's
are
got
all
a good idea here.
But it starts
these are West Virginia
with mutual aid
things.
a lot of the times. It starts with finding skilled individuals like, okay, this guy knows how to build a house. This guy knows how to fix a car. This guy knows how to grow a garden. Eventually, you connect with enough people who have enough skills that you can meet most of your needs in day-to-day life within that community as long as you have the resources.
West Virginia has a history of
and I think
pushing back
that
against the government really hard
alongside
before they went
electoralism,
really hard conservative.
Because here's the thing, it's 5 seconds. You go vote. You go do the thing, and then you keep doing the other stuff.
Pokemon go to the polls.
Yeah.
God.
It is merely a single tool on our table as leftists, and it's a tool that we need to use when it's time to use it. But I feel like a lot of leftists, they use that tool and they put it down, and then they wait until it's time to pick up that tool again, instead of looking at everything else they can do.
100%.
So
yeah, I can respect that. Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I agree with that.
I will also say that there is broader engagement with electoral politics that we as leftists should be looking at. I do completely agree with you, Bodhi, that mutual aid projects and direct action projects are really important and can be really effective. But I do also think that we can be more involved in electoral politics. Getting involved, not necessarily national level stuff is a lot harder to influence, but local level things. Mm-hmm. If there's a promising candidate or party that's active in your municipality or state, see what you can do and encourage people who are in your audience to go and volunteer their time doing a leaflet drive or helping out with strategy or helping out with managing a social media campaign. And focusing on candidates that that are advocating for important issues that will actually impact people's lives. Yeah. I think this is one of the ways that no matter what country we're in, we can build support for more leftist policies. It's become a little bit of a meme recently, but it's kind of that sewer socialism idea of the really kind of bread and butter things that affect you immediately and ways that we can improve people's lives to help to bring them on board. Also, a lot of political parties, the people actually staffing them tend to be really old and rusted on. So if you show up with 5 to 10 friends to a local branch office and you're like, hey, we want to get involved in helping out XYZ party with this stuff, they'll go, oh yeah, the youths are here. Oh, this is lovely. Okay, let's get you involved. What have you been thinking about? What are your ideas?
And actually, something that's that I didn't know until I fucking did it. It's really easy to talk to, like, your mayor. You can get involved in local government by just walking into City Hall. That was the weirdest realization that I had. And the thing that cued me into political effectiveness to the greatest degree was when I spent 2 hours just sitting there talking to my mayor, talking to the city's mayor in his office.
And what city do you live in?
Maryland.
Yo, for real?
Oh, wow.
It's really easy to talk to your mayor in small towns, man.
Yeah, you can just walk in.
I live in fucking Orlando, and when I bring up things like the police budget to my mayor, he gets the biggest sour face. He'll be so condescending.
Well,
the city council members will be all like, well, if you've never been a police in your life, then how you know we need to fund the police?
So what you do?
But I live in Orlando, so that's
yeah,
like a city.
And also, like, not bringing it up in, like, you know, we have to defund the police. It's like you go in and you talk to them. It's hard to explain exactly how you go through the conversation, because, like, the thing is, you have to be receptive or seem receptive. Now, I walked in to my mayor's office into the city hall in, like, a dirty white t-shirt and fucking dirty ass scrub pants and flip-flops because I wanted to look like a homeless person, because that was a huge problem in the city I was in, and I wanted to make sure that the mayor would take the idea of a homeless person coming to talk to him seriously.
That's hot.
Yeah.
It's a really good strategy, actually.
I am a very theatrical person.
This is my void. She is just quickly visiting. She is a beautiful little wussen.
But yeah,
a beautiful little wussen.
It's surprisingly easy to just walk in. Honestly, and it's starting to seem, after some of the shit I've pulled off in my life, anywhere. It's very easy to just walk into a place and get to talk to someone. Now, obviously, you're not going to get to do that with the White House, but there are places in your state, you know, like, can you just walk into the state capitol building to talk to a governor or something? Have you tried? And don't get aggressive with the person. You know, you're doing an exploratory thing. Just talk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
City council, very important for actually getting local things done. People don't talk about it quite enough. But, like, you know, don't just talk to them. You can do a city council. Well, yeah, I'm not talking about going and fucking your city council members. Maybe you can go and sleep with your entire city council.
Yeah.
All right. Don't take that option off the table. So
No. It's there for political viability. All things are an option.
Yeah, I don't.
It is the ultimate slutty Chad move. Just fuck the entire council leftwards.
Yes.
Left stroke is the best.
I'm sure there's a horse cock joke in here somewhere.
I don't mean to be, dismissive of electoral
Look, to the horse cock jokes, I say nay.
Because it is a very important part of what we do. Like one of the women who, or one of the people who led the protest, this wonderful lady I know named Marie Mott, she also ran for council.
The Senate will decide your fate.
She had
I
led the
fucked
protest
the Senate
summer during the aftermath of George Floyd, and she almost won. And a personal friend of mine ran for Senate a couple of years ago as an anarchist.
Oh no!
Am
I gonna have to sleep with this
There is
friend?
definitely viability in electoral politics, but I think that it's honestly mostly to get the eyes on the subject, because a lot of times we're not going to win when we run for office.
Exactly.
But,
how much influence does AOC have on public policy? Basically nothing. How much influence does she have on, the way people view leftist politics? Pretty good. Like, she's the one showing it. She's one on the picket line at Amazon union strikes, right? Like, that brings much more important cause for leftism than what she's doing in her seat in Congress, right?
I mean,
it's really weird.
On the flip side, as soon as you get a substantial portion of the party made up of people like AOC, suddenly you have an in-party voting bloc, and that starts to become really influential on policy and decisions. Now, the squad have already had some degree of influence because of their top-notch social media presence and their, as you said, ability to shape discourse and throw focus onto various things. You get that from, 3 or 4 people through to a few dozen, and you can hopefully start having more meaningful policy impact that won't just get walked back by the establishment like what's happened after this election.
Yeah. And, like, I mean, you don't even... Sometimes you don't even have to win. You just have to, like, run and then do an effective thing. Beto O'Rourke probably not going to get a whole lot of political power out of, like, doing a good thing during the Texas snowstorms. But, like, he definitely took at least a small amount of power away from Ted Cruz by just showing, hey, here's this guy who you didn't vote for. You could have had this. And then the person you did vote for kind of fucked you over.
Electoral politics, regardless of how effective you are at policymaking, is always good as a soapbox with which to get your ideas out to people, right? It's an advertising campaign a lot of the time, right? Advertising your ideas rather than your specific policies, right? That's why I was so critical of Jeremy Corbyn after 2017, when he did a really good job of engaging the youth vote, getting apolitical people involved in politics, which is a really important thing that we need to be doing as leftists, because loads of people, they just want to grill. And I'm just like, well, life will be way easier to grill under socialism, right?
Right.
Come on. Like, think about
grill.
it. Whereas in 2019, Jeremy Corbyn was so intent on getting his manifesto in power, he didn't realise he was fighting a losing battle, and he should have made way. Now all these people are engaged in politics. The Overton window has shifted. We can have someone as leader of the Labour Party who's actually going to be able to put some of those progressive ideas into practice, and then maybe down the line, once people have accepted those particular progressive ideas, then we can move forward to forcing business owners to give shares to members.
Don't forget that you can vote in the chat,
right?
or using channel points for Vaush Rad or Vaush Bad.
Good point. Nothing to disagree with.
Yeah.
I could talk forever about the cult of Jeremy Corbyn and how it pisses me off, but I feel that's a topic for another day.
So you're not a Corbynista then?
I'm a socialist, right? Like I have a really frustrating. There's a big kind of way we people frame the Corbyn project, as it were, in the UK, is talking about Corbynism, and I was like, that's not what it was. It was social
cynical
democracy, was what his manifesto was built on, right? That's all it was. Calling it Corbynism takes it away from the actual political point that he was trying to make, and moves us over into this cult of personality, which he didn't really create himself. What he just wanted to do was, essentially do what Mike Gravel did, except he just happened to win out of nowhere because he resonated with people so well that, especially within the Labour Party membership who vote on who becomes the leader, look, he became the leader out of nowhere, kind of unexpectedly, and then got this platform, might as well use it, and he spread loads of ideas very well. But unfortunately, as we've already said, you can't really be an anti-establishment candidate in electoral politics because of how much money is behind big media and how much they can smear you, which they did. But that didn't really work in 2017 because they didn't really know what they were trying to smear. But then post-2017, he's been the leader for 2 more years, and he's already suffered an electoral defeat. And there's the shadow of Brexit. He was completely fucking useless as a Labour Party leader, and he should have stepped down. Like,
why is it that
the electoral system looks like he's in honestly most countries makes it to where,
but like,
if you go too far left,
looks like he's in fucking Willy Wonka.
If you don't go left enough, you're not going to be effective. And there's hardly any there's hardly any crossover between those two. What the fuck are those graphs called?
Venn diagram.
Venn diagram. God, you can tell that I'm tired.
Well, you look at the Democratic Party, even the progressive members of the Democratic Party outside of the squad and the Dem Stocks and Soc Dems out of there, they won't defend their position. They won't go out of their way to say, social programs and government spending is good. Higher taxes is good. They have to qualify it and go, well, maybe we're raising your taxes by X, Y, Z. And just go, no, these things are. We need to argue from epistemological point rather, that we have the idea that having a large amount of sovereign wealth is a good idea, which we can use to fund social programs, whereas they have to keep qualifying it, and that's why the Democratic Party is a lot of the times a dead end, because these positions aren't they vindicate by starting from the position that you can't, oppose the Republican Party's ideals.
Oh my god!
You reify them by saying, "Well, they are right about this issue, but we're just slightly less radical," which doesn't sway anyone's opinions, right? It doesn't advance the cause of what we want to be doing.
If you say that we have a lot of wealth and we should be spending it on people, you'll probably
I think in all three of
votes.
our countries we come up against that's been touched on a couple of times, including by No Justice just before. And that's the whole media thing. I think we've all been like royally fucked over by Murdoch. As an Australian, I apologise for his existence. That's our bad. Yeah, that's me personally. It was a time machine incident. I'm just really sorry. But it's very important for us to build alternate media networks, and it also comes down to the
it's very hard to sell
the stuff I was talking about before with building up media literacy and training people to be analytic, to be skeptical of the media that they encounter. But at the same time, like here in Australia, Murdoch owns something like 76% of all of our print media, and in rural towns, every newspaper available is Murdoch, and because of that, his influence is so hideously vast.
Imagine a system where we praised people for paying their taxes.
This is kind of one of my Black Pill Doomer things. I don't actually know how we combat a propaganda network that advanced and pervasive. It doesn't mean we shouldn't try, but yet. I'd be open to hear ideas.
There's only one real way to do it, and that's
with a time machine.
Well, no, we have a means to we have a means of sort of combating the existing media infrastructure. Not, we're not going to be fighting them on equal grounds, but we're using it, right? We're using social media in the way that you're sort of talking about. We are using it to combat the existing media machine because we are having these conversations. We are putting out these ideas. Sure, it's going to be a slow fight, but it is happening.
Yeah.
This is something where I do think that electoralism can actually help us, because something that's tied to electoralism is regulation and regulatory power. Like here in Australia, we have anti-monopoly laws, but they're not being properly enforced. We did have laws that were preventing one company or person from owning too many different kinds of media, but they got stricken from the books because we had a string of right-wing politicians coming in that were being supported by Murdoch, and Murdoch wanted those laws gone. This is a reason that I think we can't afford to give up on electoral politics.
Man, imagine if there was
because of the legislative environment around things like media monopolies and information spread and
put you on a leaderboard.
I mean, if you pass the right laws, America could stop Fox News from functioning because it's not a news source, or it could go through and break stuff up. Just enforcing most countries' existing anti-monopoly laws would be enough for this. But it requires the political will that needs us to get involved in electoral politics, even though it's a Sisyphean battle.
I mean, you find things like
really
your name being out there.
To pause the momentum of the conversation, but I'm about to head off. Just wanted to say thanks for having me on. This was a really awesome conversation. I'm glad I made time to do this. It was great meeting all of you.
Why?
I would highly recommend that you guys look into Rojava and how it was formed if you don't already know about it. And I would also
check it out, man. You sparked my interest.
I would also recommend you read the book Anarchism and the Black Revolution by Lorenzo Camboa Irving. He was a Black Panther, still is a Black Panther, he's still alive. My group has actually talked to him before. And that book kind of is the blueprint that we're going off of, and I think that it's a resource that any leftist should check out.
I don't think
you guys
that's
have a great
true,
night or day, depending on where you are in the world. Peace.
All right, bro. You have a good day, man.
It's lovely talking to you, buddy.
Yeah, have a nice day. Night.
Yeah.
Yo, before you go, can I tell you one thing?
Hit
when you first mentioned Rojava, I was like, is that kind of like civet coffee? Okay.
I'm not familiar with the coffee you're referring to, but I'm sure it's delicious.
Look it up.
Well,
Look,
Okay.
For as an aside, I think we should do like a left tube posting roundtable like regularly. Just get people off the
I
group.
like this concept. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
is
if one
really
of
nice.
you guys want to host, this is sort of against my brand. I only did put as much effort into making sure there was a schedule and everything because I was like, this sounds dumb. The initial conversation was just, is Vaush bad? That's a really dumb topic, but I love it.
Oh, I wanted it to evolve
It
into what it
was a
has.
stupid
Like,
topic.
that's what I wanted.
Well,
Yeah.
I came in late. I was expecting to walk in and kind of, the community, everything's on fire gif, and everyone was being nice. I was like, oh, cool. I've got a little bit more faith in humanity right now.
I mean, did you not see that the one where it's just like people on Twitter calling out of Vaush like, you racist transphobe piece of shit, I will dunk the fuck out of you, and then when they get on stream like, yeah, so when is my mic okay? But anyway,
yeah.
I think if you would just see things from my point of view.
Well, and okay, so honestly, I think a lot. I don't want to bad talk Bodhi because I think Bodhi is actually. I find Bodhi's approach and ideas to be more important than my own. He's 10 years younger than I am. That's why he's going to be affected by things 10 years longer than I am. Supposedly, if we live to the same end date or the same end age, but his whole they have to be held accountable. Accountability in that idea is so toxic. I've never heard somebody say they have to be held accountable and say so in a good, useful way.
Thing like
I used to say
what
Trump
time,
had to be held accountable.
Like
Well, when
restitution
people
is
are
more
young-
important than accountability, as far as I'm concerned. As long as you make amends and if you've done a wrong, then you should right that wrong, right? But that's not the same. Like people, the term accountability gets obfuscated so much that it's kind of lost all of that kind of meaning.
Yeah. Accountability doesn't mean throw them into a void and never hear from them again.
Yeah.
For sure.
No.
Or pursue them with a online harassment mob so bad that they fall into substance abuse or retreat from doing content creation and online activism.
Yeah.
This banishment
but
mentality is not the best in the world. I mean, it's useful for certain people. But if someone made an honest to goodness mistake, feels bad about it, and wants to make amends, then
Yeah, and
it's value for the community for that person to do that rather than shunning them forever.
honestly, I might sound like an overly utilitarian individual here. I genuinely, because of the nature of people being they have to be held accountable, I don't see the use, the actual mechanical use of apologizing publicly for something, because I've remembered the term. It's the Streisand effect. It's that thing where when I draw attention to it, you're going to notice it, and it just gets worse from there.
The amount of people in the Breadtube subreddit or in LeftTube posting have just gone oh yeah, I'd never known who Vaush is, but people kept talking about how bad he was, so I watched some of his content to see what it was like, and I liked it, and now I'm a fan. I'm just well, there you go, shot yourself on the foot, haven't you?
Yeah. To address that point, sorry for interrupting you, Raw. Just Mr. Nobody's point. I don't know. I've taken a few PR classes. That's kind of part of my major in college. Addressing the problem before it becomes an issue, because whatever happens in the dark will come into the light at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's after you die or after you retire or whatever, it will come to the light at some point. I think addressing it sets a better example for you. People will respect you in the long term. Just for example, Tylenol. During the 80s, there's some, how when you buy medicine, there's a film there. There's a plastic strip before you open it. Then there's a film after you open it, right? That wasn't always the case. It used to be just a soda or something. You just uncap it, do whatever you want to it. So some fucking weirdo back in 1982 poisoned a bunch of Tylenol, children's Tylenol, and a fuck ton of kids died.
Yeah, I remember
10 kids fucking died from that shit.
That's crazy.
And then it became public news, but Tylenol got right in front of it. And they're hey, we're taking onus for this. Do not buy Tylenol until we fix this shit. We're gonna put the little plastic strip before you can open it, and we're gonna have like the fucking lid, so no other weirdo can go inside of a Target or a Walmart or whatever and put piss in it or poison or whatever the fuck you put in there, and kill your kids. And like, yeah, that they took a small hit at the end, but then like they reap the rewards of being honest and upfront, and respectable about it. And yeah, it's kind of like the thing that they tell you in every PR class is like the Tylenol story from the 80s. It's complicated. It's like kind of like a tight line, right? It's like, damn, say you do some bad shit, and no one knows about it, and they probably won't find out about it until you're fucking dead or some shit. Like, then like, damn, like it's tough to convince that person that there's a value in coming clean about that, you know?
Yeah, and like if you can specifically, sort of, I'm gonna use a negative word here, but whatever. If you can spin it, then it can be positive. So like, I'm a person with a bad history, and so like, you know, I get ahead of anybody being like, you know, he used to be racist. He used to he used to I used to be a fucking creep. I'll just straight up talk about it. You know, I had gotten to the point where I'd literally stalked someone at one point.
Yeah.
And one of the things, you know, if you find yourself if you are an obsessive individual, don't let yourself do these things, you know.
There's a value in coming clean about that and then telling people, hey, this is how you don't do that shit. You know?
How would other people learn from it? You know what I'm saying? If you don't actually talk about your own
you gotta set the example. You gotta be, I'm gonna say the N word, but this is something that me and my homies call being a bigger person. We call it being the bigger nigga. And
yeah,
sometimes that's just you gotta be.
So, for example, there's another story I have.
Like people, Mr. No, but sorry.
So there's another story I had that was similar to about the Tylenol thing, whereas there's a Magic the Gathering player called Patrick Chapin, and he went to prison for 5 years for drug smuggling.
Well,
and then
you got to self-regulate.
Having
really
come out of that,
Fudge.
he then went around. He didn't.
If you find yourself
still writing Magic articles
starting
from prison,
to obsess,
but then with no one knowing, was pretty funny. He's banned from Japan. But when he came out,
that's pretty boss.
And when he came, when he came out, he used Magic the Gathering as his kind of his. I used to be a bad person, but being part of the Magic community changed me, and now he's like a face of multiple different like Magic the Gathering brands. He's done commentary. He's done like advertising for people.
That's a really
even
good
after being a drug smuggler who went to prison because he's because he's using his platform for.
I'll show you what I have set up after the conversation ends.
But it's he changes.
My obsessive behavior is like kind of
that's pretty great.
Lazy.
Some people will shit on you forever, but I don't think that's going to be the majority of people. If you, I guess spins is like a neutral word. You can. It's like the fortune, you use it for good or for evil if you spin it correctly.
Yeah, PR is a force. It is not. It has no moral qualifier of its own.
Yeah. It has roots in,
on this
like,
particular note of PR, there's some non-leftist theory that I'm going to recommend. Edward Bernays's On Propaganda. Bernays was the godfather of the propaganda industry, which renamed itself to the public relations industry. He was the man who was responsible for making cigarettes sexy for women, for turning bacon into a breakfast food. It's only a short book, and it's really, really interesting read. He was, I think, Sigmund Freud's like nephew or second cousin or something. But yeah, Edward Bernays On Propaganda, worth checking out.
Oh, okay. Yes, I've heard of this guy. You said Sigmund Freud's like nephew, or okay.
The way in which like advertising like shapes the way you think is like fucking wild. Like I'm no tanky, but at least when you're in the DPRK, there's no advertising in the bloody train stations, right?
But consent is still being manufactured in the DPRK. It's not just not being manufactured for profit.
I understand. I absolutely agree. I just hate advertising. It fucking pisses me off because we have, like in London, especially. I love London. There's beautiful architecture, and you can't fucking see it because there's SDK billboards fucking everywhere. Hate it.
Yeah, look, I pay Google so I don't have to see YouTube ads when I watch videos.
I got a Samsung phone, and Samsung gave me 4 months premium for free.
Nice.
I don't pay for shit. I don't
Android
have to.
gang.
I'll just sit through the ads, whatever.
I'm about to.
I only have so many seconds on this planet, and I'm not going to waste them with adverts telling me to buy fucking
DoorDash.
Right.
Oh my gosh!
Reload the page 3 times. You might notice fewer ads.
How would you know
What
about that pizza oven, man? You can make pizzas at home, bro. You'll never know about it if you didn't watch the commercials.
I can already make pizzas at home
like
in my oven.
With dough and tomato sauce and cheese. The old-fashioned
You're only
way.
cool if you spend a lot of money.
Right? How are you supposed to get your economic status? How are you supposed to get your social status up without spending money on whatever it is YouTube's advertising right now?
Right? Fuck, man. Oh, since this is a stream, I'd like to take a moment to plug in Raid Shadow Legends.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh my god.
Okay, who's going to do NordVPN?
I've got shotgun Skillshare. I feel like
this stream brought to you by water. Fucking hydrate.
Pure water. Anyway, I think the conversation's kind of winding down now, but I wanted to have like some kind of closing thoughts, really. First of all, like as I said before, I think we should definitely do like a semi-regular left tube posting panel, get people involved, get people talking, get people discussing.
Get CJ in here.
I like to want to have a kind of closing statement just about in general Vaush, and I think that first of all, I think he serves a very important role. First of all, in de-radicalization. Secondly, at the start of the leftist pipeline, and thirdly, in getting people who are apolitical wary of politics, just because of generally being a charismatic and interesting and irreverent individual. I think he brings people over. With his faults, I don't think he does enough to be able to engage people on the ground. I don't think his a lot of the positions that he holds are tenable, like the way he apologizes for socialists who engage in the bad parts of capitalism that are avoidable. And I think but I think that the thing that people hate him for, like the bad things he's done in his past, are completely unwarranted. Since he's fully he apologized for everything. He's not positions that he holds anymore. And I think in general, I would go with Vaush.
So actually, because you guys are talking closing statements and so on. I did have one thing that I actually really do want to push on with Vaush, because my biggest problem, and I've said it a couple of times, I might have sounded like I was just being mean or something. I genuinely think that the biggest problem that I've seen that I have with him is that he so frequently seems to purport positions, but he's never thought through them. He's an idiot, and it ends up being harmful. He is harmful to his audience because he sort of promotes lazy thought. He doesn't go out and actively encourage people to not think through things, but by not thinking through things enough, he kind of sort of endorses it, right? Like,
I think that's a strategy on his part. Like it's purposefully done.
Not thinking things through?
Well, no, I think Vaush thinks things through, but I believe that he doesn't want certain people to spend too much time on looking at things that he would deem irrelevant to his agenda, to his rhetoric. You understand? Does that make sense, what I just said?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think on the left we all have different opinions. Like what someone would say is like an idiotic idea, someone else would say it's a great idea. With that being said, I do think that Vaush makes content every day, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's part of the problem.
Close to it.
Yeah, like 2 to 3 videos a day,
week, right?
Yeah. So a fuck ton of videos. That's a lot of political opinions he has to shoot out. So I think like in the cycle of like how the algorithm will treat you, like if you only did like 4 days a week, the algorithm would shit on him. If you like, so I think like in order to keep that train moving, and I know we're weighing. All right, so this impressionable audience, we know a lot of people in high school, fucking early college students listen to this guy, and his like personal gain. I think it's kind of like a weird thing to to balance sometimes.
I mean,
a lot of leftist
but
creators.
what you're doing here is you're permitting demagogues. Because
I don't have an intrinsic problem with demagoguery.
Like the problem here is that when your positions aren't well thought through, you're inevitably going to sell someone short on a bad idea.
So,
by the way, I just wanted to say, like, I just want to like 20. Sorry, so it's 20 past 1 now. I've said my ending piece, and I just want to. I'm going to head to bed now.
I'm
so sorry.
I'm moving tomorrow, and I need to pack. So,
all right, sorry about that.
That's fair.
That's fine. But anyway, thank you very much for having me on. I much appreciate it, and hopefully I'll catch you all on the next one. And cheers for organising it. Catch you all later.
Thank you so much.
Lovely to talk to you, No Justice.
You have
talking to you, No Justice.
Bye bye.
Good night, Helena.
Good luck with your move.
Much appreciated. Everyone, go in my chat. Go to someone else's stream. Do that. See the end of the conversation. Anyway, bye everyone.
Before anyone else drops out,
last 5 seconds.
Before anyone else drops out, I'm just going to plug my stuff before because I came in late and all of that. So hi, I'm Radhom. I've got a background in circus performance, theatre, and burlesque.
You look like it.
I'm a massive political nerd, and I've been trying to get into political streaming. I'm doing circus training and chatting streams where I play with circus toys and talk about random shit. I'm doing more traditional political streams and gaming streams. And I'm also doing painting and politics, where I paint my little wargaming miniatures and talk to people about politics, and the goal there is to have people on to chat away while I'm doing that. So, just trying to find ways that my ADD brain can make interesting things for all of you.
Question. When you say wargaming miniatures, are you talking about Warhammer 40K? In
part, yes.
Alright.
Hey.
I'm not even gay, bro, but I'll fucking date you.
It's because of all that fine painting dexterity, isn't it? So yeah, I just... Ooh, new follower. Always makes me happy. So, Mr. Nobodies, I just wanted to push back on your point a bit regarding...
demagogues?
Yeah, demagogues, or more Vaush's Vaush not thinking through his positions. There's a certain degree of truth to that, in that, like, he's going out and very kind of rapid fire giving reactions, but I do think that he's got well-grounded. Can't think of the phrase off the top of my head. It's
axioms.
Axioms. He's got very well-grounded fundamental axioms that he's working from, that he's thought about a lot and has put a lot of thought and effort into. And every time I've seen someone come to him with concrete information on, you have this wrong, and that information shapes out, he's then gone back and kind of done a new segment correcting the mistakes that he did previously, or he's addressed it on stream. So, I don't think it's right to call him intellectually lazy, because he does because of the ways that we see him engage with ideas when they are presented to him.
So one of the things I value in the world is stillness. I value people taking their time and being slow about things. So when a person spends 15 hours a week streaming and constantly spewing out political opinions that often come across half-baked, I'm going to look at this person very skeptically. And this is part of my problem with Vaush, is that he'll put out ideas for the first time, the second time, the third time, and then the fifth time, it changes because one conversation challenged him. And I know that changing your opinion is good, but never taking the time, never investing in stillness, means that like you're more likely to put out these very bad ideas, right?
So I see where you're coming from. This does present us with a practical challenge. We live in, and we're operating in a world of algorithmically driven attention, and the things that the algorithm preferences are largely volume of output and watch time, like total watch time from audience members. Like one of Vaush's advantages, on top of he is very well presented and he engages his audience as well, but is that sheer volume of work that he manages to output. And if he was taking the time to do that more thoughtful, I'm only going to stream once I've really considered these topics, then he wouldn't be able to build the platform that he has. Now, we do have the option of people doing engaging in video essayist stuff, but that's kind of leftist video essays are already an oversaturated market, and part of the reason I think for Vaush's very meteoric rise is he managed to tap into an undertapped market of both that very rapid fire, high output but well presented leftist content, and that bit more of an edgy bent that allowed him to bring more people in over from the right.
I guess, I mean, I understand that, like...
I'm not saying you're wrong, it's just a conundrum. Like, in a world that's driven by these algorithms that are preferencing content that's produced in a certain way, how do we get our information out there and maximize our accuracy?
You guys both making incredibly valid points.
Yeah.
I feel like
there's
one thing about Vaush that I really didn't like, and I didn't talk about it earlier, but it's very serious to me. He fucking sucks at Bloodborne.
But
he really does.
Someone in my chat actually brought this up, because the thing is, this criticism actually isn't only levied against Vaush. This is a criticism levied against Vaush and Destiny. Actually, primarily those two, though it extends to anybody who does frequent political streams, or doesn't prepare any level of doesn't appear to prepare any level of content before their streams, even if they're less prolific than Vaush and Destiny, is systemic laziness. My critique is actually exactly the advantage that that Horn brought up, is that you rapidly pump out content and it hurts the content itself.
So I'm going to sound a little bit snowflakey here. I do think that I don't know in Vaush and Destiny's instances, but that accusation of systemic laziness can be, I think, a bit ableist.
I'll have to give you a better example after the conversation.
Sitting down and I tried starting out with prepared content. Each time I sit down to write a script, my brain starts screaming at me. I try to be informed as I can about political topics, but a lot of it comes down to, when I'm breaking down a video, I'm going to have to go and research stuff while I'm doing that video. Partially because my brain doesn't retain all of the details and I have to double check information, and partially because there's only so much pre-prep I can do before my brain just shuts off and I'll never get that content out there. So I do get what you're saying, and I appreciate this. People should put preparation and thought into their content, but I would encourage you not to make a blanket "this is because laziness" thing, and to not gatekeep, because I do think that there are people of various different neurotypes who can create things and be helpful.
Yeah, and I wanna be clear that, like, this is actually, like, it's very specific to the condition, right? Because when I say preparing things, like if you have topics and you have sort of a general idea how you're going to reflect on it, this is what my friend Shark 300 does. He goes and he reads an article. He'll maybe watch a couple of videos on it, and then he'll go over it like that night or the next night or something. And this is perfectly fine. He's not actually in an economic position to do much more than that, right? And you were mentioning your own ADD, ADHD, whatever condition. I actually suffer through a lot of anxiety that when I'm doing my videos on when I'm doing my videos, I'll sit there for a week, I'll write out a script, get 2 sentences in, write out another script, get 2 sentences in, and then the next day wake up with about 2 hours of sleep, and then just record the audio for the video. So I definitely understand that whole, like, not being mentally able to, not having the bandwidth for it, because it's not even like not being mentally able to, the cognitive functions are all there. It's just but my criticism when it comes to Vaush, when it comes to Destiny, is that these are people who are of means as well. This isn't just going to be a personal criticism. This is also going to carry with it a systemic criticism, because they are people who are wealthy. They have better means, and thus take on an additional layer of responsibility because, in my personal evaluation of the system, they have more time.
That makes. Well, I don't really have much else to say, though. Actually, no. I've got a criticism of Vaush that I think is worth bringing up, and I would love to hear your three's thoughts on it.
It can be a bit ableist.
He's walked it back on other things in the past, but he still does it for one particular thing. His engagement in ironic bigotry. At the moment, he basically just does it with ironic misogyny, but it's real. Like, it's basically gives green light, and I say this as someone who enjoys his content. It basically gives green light for his viewers to engage in those same behaviors, and with online interactions, especially text-based ones, you can't read fucking sarcasm. It's impossible. So yeah, I'd just love to hear. I don't know. It's just a criticism that I have.
Yeah, there's actually.
I don't think it's very responsible.
There's actually, like, I can't point to examples of this because it's not something I'm really that prepared for, but I have a feeling that it has led to more actual misogyny. And in particular, he recently tried to do a segment on incels, where he talked about the trouble of atomization that he believes is reaching, that is making inceldom worse, right? And during that entire segment, you got to listen to him get very frustrated at his chat. I think that the ironic misogyny may have planted the seeds for his chat sort of pushing back the way it did, that led into his own frustration. And this is part of what I mean by not thinking things through. Like, he's already been doing this thing that establishes this line of behavior, and then he goes out and he talks about this problem and then doesn't you know what? Your comment of this being an ableist thing did just pop up, because he is autistic, for those who are unaware, or he has talked about being autistic in the past, and so it might just be he doesn't have access to the information as intuitively as I might. So yeah.
Oh man, this whole conversation.
Taj and
really
Raw, do you have any thoughts
on that? Well,
that or
I
anything
really
else?
can't-
I just want to hear your
criticize
lovely
them.
voices.
Because like when you mentioned the ironic things, like I was like, fuck, man. I'm pretty sure in my Caitlyn Bennett video, I was ironically anti-sex worker when I was like on her website. If you've never been on her website's like very like sex appealing. So it'd be like all these like doctored photos of her, these like kind of like sensual, low-key sensual photos. I'm like, you know what, guys?
Sweet.
I used to be pro-sex worker, not an anti-sex worker, and like I copied that from
pro-sex
fucking
worker.
Vaush. I copied that from Vaush.
I like sex workers, man. We everyone has a job. To
Yeah,
do.
I'm
Sex
pro
workers
sex
all the
worker.
way.
I'm pro sex worker. But I'm like, I just said that just to bash Caitlyn Bennett, and I'm like, oh fuck, I did the exact thing you're criticizing. And I'm like,
When it,
It's a real easy thing to slip into, and like one of the. I think that there are ways that it can be done responsibly, but the larger your audience is, the more dumbasses you're going to get in there, who are going to run with that in the wrong way. And I don't think he takes enough time, like, talking about how this is a fucking joke, you shouldn't take it seriously, to be able to responsibly.
The way I feel about it is no one's perfect, man, and it's just hard to walk that thin line of morality.
Yeah,
100%.
they really do.
Especially with all
also,
the
hey there,
content
Darth.
he's
How
pushing
you
out.
doing?
He's at where he's at because he is who he is, and I feel like he's overall has a positive influence on the community. I don't really watch his content that much. I watch it when I see other people watch it. I'm just kind of the random fucking wild card that was invited by one of Vaush's fans to be a troll. And I was damn sure gonna troll, but I enjoyed everyone so much that I just engage in on the conversation and just make dumbass jokes. I didn't get a chance to make any dick jokes. I'm kind of sad about that, but hey.
Yeah. I mean, well, you can whip it out last minute.
Try.
Oh my gosh, the coon cheese.
Yeah, he said it. He said it first.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, that cheese. It's really mediocre cheese as well.
Is it? Damn, bro. I
It looks like it's like kind of like Kraft.
What are you trying to say?
No, Kraft is like a fucking, it's like it's the bottom tier cheese. It's like the shit you get from like Walmart.
What, Kraft?
Like,
Yeah,
Yo, bro, Kraft
it's similar
makes
level to
Kraft.
Kraft cheese.
Oh, dude, so it makes great
looks like it is.
grilled cheese then. That's what you're telling me?
No, you want like, for grilled cheese, you want like a nice sharp, bitey cheddar.
Uh-huh. I don't know if
Here,
Oh my
Vega
God, this
cheese is
guy.
probably your best cheap option for that.
Look, do you like Vegemite?
Fucking love Vegemite, mate. Drink it by the carton.
I don't trust your judgment in grilled cheese because I fucking hate Vegemite. I'm sorry.
So the way to have Vegemite, everyone's a little bit different, but this is the way to have it, for me at least. You toast up your bread, you slather it in butter, and then you get like a thin smear of Vegemite across the top.
That's an acquired
Vegemite's
taste, though, 'cause
it is absolutely an acquired taste, but it's also like chock full of B vitamins and electrolytes and stuff. So it's kind of one of those things, like it's a great hangover food because it helps your body to reabsorb water.
yeah, I've heard that. I got friends who love Vegemite, man, and I've tried it a few times. I just can't do it.
Vegemite
I thought
sounds
Vegemite
awful.
tastes like Nutella until now.
No,
Now that Google's telling me
tastes like
something different.
motor oil, bro. It tastes like motor oil.
Vegemite is a beer brewing byproduct.
Yeah, so
It's
salty,
made out of yeast.
slightly bitter, malty, enriching glutamate. Yeah,
You
glutamates.
thought it tasted like Nutella, bro?
Someone told me that it tastes like Nutella a few years ago, and I never questioned
Man.
it.
I don't know,
Trying to
like-
troll the shit out of you.
Yeah, whenever I think of Vegemite, I think of like the taste I always get in mind is like can of butter or something.
I don't know. It's not that bad because people in Australia love it. So
Yeah, so it's got to be
As an
pretty bad.
Australian, I have never tried can of butter, not even in Minecraft.
not even in Minecraft. Did you guys think the conversation went well? You think it was entertaining and informative overall?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of people raise some good points. I really like Telona's points. I like Bodhi's points. I like Mr. Nobody's points. Rue Radhorn. I don't think you try to debate, but you would be like a fucking deadly debater. Like holy shit.
Nobody can get past the mustache. It's the mustache beard combo.
It's a powerful weapon,
bro. It is fucking powerful.
Yeah, I'd hate to debate him.
The trick to a curly mustache, now be super careful if you try this yourself, is an electric hair straightener. You just pinch and twirl, gets it into the nice twist shape, and then you just tack it in place with wax. Otherwise, you're like wrestling it in place with the wax.
My friend, well, I have a few friends. So I'm currently in Wyoming, and I know a lot of cowboys. They have the curly mustache thing going on, but none as majestic as yours. Not this far.
Thank you, man.
I haven't seen it.